Wait! Before you skip ahead and continue, check the timestamps, playlists for other floor sets, check my merch store for Deep Dungeon apparel. Cue the intro. Hello, I am Angelus Demonus, with an updated Dawntrail live tutorial guide for Palace of the Dead solo on Machinist, if your goal is to get the Necromancer title. If you do intend to aim for the Necromancer title, and you have stumbled upon this video but have yet to even unlock Palace of the Dead, I highly suggest you give my how-to ether pool farming and leveling video a look. While it discusses an optimal method to level your deep dungeon power levels as a solo gamer in general, it will also provide information on how to unlock Palace of the Dead and how to approach it completely solo from the beginning on any job. This live tutorial guide will cover floors 101 to 140, and we will go deeper into what each of the enemies do and their aggro types, and highlight notable enemies you will want to pay a lot more attention to. There is a lot of various deep dungeon tips scattered around the run, so be sure to take a look at the timestamps in the description below for anything specific. If you are looking for the other floor sets, be sure to check the playlist on the upper right card or in the description below. You may notice my arm and armor is not at the full 99.99. Unlike the previous guides in Endwalker and Shadowbringers, I had started this run at floor 1 at 59.59. Be sure to see the floor 1 to 50 live tutorial guide for context. You will see the rate in which we upgrade our arm and armor as we climb, and get very close to cap by the end of this section of the live tutorial. Another difference between this guide and the previous ones is that I have limited live chat interactions and kept the focus strictly on Deep Dungeon content. This will play almost like a Deep Dungeon podcast with gameplay and a couple of viewer questions sprinkled in. I have learned from viewers of previous guides that they like to play along with the video up on another screen or monitor while they do their own run, and it's almost like I'm talking you through the run in real time. If you have any questions on anything that goes on with this run, things I may not have covered, or if you are confused on anything, be sure to leave them in the comments below and I will try to respond as soon as I can. My goal with these guides is to make the grueling challenge of the Necromancer title approachable and viable to all skill levels. No single question is silly, and every single experience is unique. Be sure to keep me posted on how your runs are going. Good luck, have fun, and I hope this guide helps you. You are at a guaranteed Aether Pool increase 101 plus. Every silver chest you get to will 100% guarantee that you get it, provided it doesn't explode, and provided you're not already capped. But that's one big benefit of now stepping into these higher floors, because the Aether Pool will go. You won't have any situation where it would just fail. So your Aether Pool will climb really fast in these higher floors. Alright, let's step into 101. And thank you for the question. Alright, let's do it. Opening with a strength again, as I have been up until now. Alright, so you're gonna start to see a repeat of the enemies from floor 1 climbing up. So the enemies are gonna be very familiar. Some of them are gonna be a little bit different though. You have a Patrol Ziz here, which will do a Conal AoE sleep. And it has a weird thing where after it does, actually I think it's paralyzed. After it does its Conal, it will actually stay in its position and not move for a while, which I don't understand why that's a mechanic, but it is a thing. Yarzon are probably the most deadliest here, next to the beetles and the bees later on. The reason why they're bad is because they give you a 20-second vulnerability down. That alone is not that bad, but if you're fighting a secondary enemy, that can really be highly annoying. So you want to be careful with that. You have Palace Sprites, which are going to be, I believe they actually are proximity. I'm gonna walk next to one of them before. They are just regular casters. Nothing crazy about them. They just do exactly what their counterpart does on the lower floors and just cast. You have the Goblins, which are again the same thing as they were before. They will do a point blank after about 5 seconds, which is right there, Shatter. And that's about it. They are kind of the easier enemies to fight here. So really good ones to pull and to deal with and to get out of the way. They are sight aggro. I think I have not been talking about the aggro. Yarzon are sound. The Goblin was sight, the Ziz was sight. Now we're gonna walk past these guys over here. These are sound. So there you go, that's the aggro for that one. I wasn't quite sure. But the Ziz, the sprites are indeed sound. Gonna pull a Goblin here. Alright, so that kind of definitely explains the first floor. One thing you'll definitely notice stepping into 101 Plus, the rooms and the floors are gonna be way bigger. No longer you're gonna run into like 3 roomers, maybe even 4 roomers. You're gonna get a minimum of 5 rooms. I don't remember what the maximum was, maybe like 8 or 9. But the rooms are going to be very big, and the kill counts are gonna be a little bit higher now to get through. But as mentioned, the enemies are going to be kind of a duplicate and a replica of their counterpart 100 floors ago, just with a couple adjustments. Alright, no items here. We're definitely going to respect that one. We do have a strength going, so let's try to do a lot of kiting here. We didn't really need so much healing anyway. Alright, what else we got here? Goblin, and a silver chest, which I really want to get to for the upgrade. We're gonna wait till we get there, hold for a second in case I hit a trap, now pop the chest. Oopsies. Sometimes you could walk into a landmine into that silver chest, so I gave that little hesitation so we don't run into that wombo combo. You could also get a frog trap, which will be a bad wombo combo. That's why I held in front of that chest for a second. Particularly in that donut room. That donut room can be a little bit bad too with traps. Walking here to avoid the Yarzon at the moment. I can actually get past him no problem. I'm gonna go into this room first. That's okay. There's a bronze chest. Now, worthy, very, very good thing to note here. Potsherds are going to be so much of a higher rate than they were on the lower floor. So what did I say? We got 3? No, we got 4 on the first 100 floors. We could get 4 on this set alone. Like this specific set, we could pick up 4. Like that's how much the drop rate is going to be so much better. And that's why starting with a lower amount of potsherds is not a terrible idea. And I always say like, hey, get to 101 plus to farm your potsherds. It sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like it's a little weird that you have to go that high or that low just to start getting potsherds, but once you see it, once you get to those silver chests, dude, you'll understand. It's like, oh. We had someone today saying that, what, at 131, 141, they got like 7 in that floor set, so you'll see it come in. Again, I don't want to pull and fight in the hallway precisely because we don't have items at the moment. So anytime I move through this room, I want to make sure that I am not having an enemy on top of me. Gotta get out of here. Okay, the Yarzon. Needing those does the higher kill count here. Tactician to counter the damage down. Oh, I'm not out. Okay. 50 Shades of Orange. And there's the trap. Okay, now the donut room is free now, because I just unleashed the trap. I do want to wait a little bit for my HP, but I can fight the Goblin here, so that'll be okay. AoE. Ran into him on purpose so we can get that AoE out, otherwise he might just keep chasing me without the AoE. Oh man, now it's a piss key right there. Alright, next pull. High kill count. It is what it is. This is what you're gonna expect sometimes. We had it on the previous set, now we have it again. Alright, next floor, let's go. Admittedly, I forgot that we had we still had traps in this one, but luckily it was just a landmine. I believe I heard a blind debuff here. Yep, we've been getting a lot of blinds today. Blinds have been pretty strong today. Blinds and abilities have been kind of coming in powerful. Alright, you have Stag. Stags are site aggro They're not bad, they only just do auto attack, so they would have a, I believe they have a kickback if you run behind them, but that's very rare in a solo attempt, so you don't really have to worry about that. They are going to be bad if you do it with a Yarzon who gives you the bone down. Something to keep in mind. You really should not be doing double pulls that much, but hey, if you do, then you gotta be careful for that. Do you think exploring every room is something you need to do from this point forward? So, okay, let me give you a scenario. We got two scenarios that I can give you. The first one is the present one that you're looking at. The reason I need to do this is because I do want to get my Aether Pool back up, and we are looking for Potsherds. Because we don't have that many potions currently as a starting kit, we do want to run the benefit of checking all these rooms to get to these chests. Because we are kind of in, like, a bit of a farming phase right now. I could go skip rooms, but then we're lowering our chance of getting Potsherds, and we're lowering our chance to get those armor. Now, that's the current scenario. In terms of, like, let's say I have, like, 1,000 sustaining potions, and my armor is 99.99, I definitely will put less value in trying to check all the rooms, per se. Especially if you only care about the clear. Because you're good in that department. I mean, you could still build your stock for your Pomanders, but generally your Pomanders might be pretty okay here. And you really don't need to care about filling out your Pomanders till maybe about 131, 141. So you can go a little faster in that department. But due to the fact that we're trying to continue powering ourselves up, there is going to be a benefit to me checking some of the other rooms, so on and so forth. Because the other reason you'll see someone go in for, like, getting the full reveals and everything is for scoring. It's kind of a requirement when you try to go for high score that you go for these higher, getting all the chests and getting all the reveals, because there are points attached to it, but that's a more, you know, more of an endgame version of Deep Dungeon, if you will. The blind is definitely hurting, though. Oh, the blind. Trying to really not use the sustaining potion as best as I can. Let's do the Sprite here. Okay, we are out. Sometimes there's a trap on these corners, so I'll be just a little bit careful here, but we should be okay. That blind is definitely hurting, though. Rough on the blind. Okay, into the next floor. Okay, blind again. Goodness. Alright, it's fine. We'll deal with it. I may re-up the strength again just to keep the power level going here. Yeah... No, let's do the Stag. And I miss. Really, really hating that blind right now. Purity. That's a lot of enemies moving around. Okay, so we have 2 new enemies to log in terms of our pulls. One interesting one to do here, the other a little more annoying. Okay, the Goblin Adventure does open with like a little bit of a tank buster. It'll do a triple hit on me. Right there, the Goblin Rush. Okie dokie. Now we're gonna fight a squirrel. The squirrels are a little annoyingly deadly. However, you can have ways of mitigating them. So let's see if I can just do this normally first. They're gonna do a haste move, a scamper, which gives them haste, and they attack like a crazy, like they attack very fast, and with low defense, it can get very annoying. Now, one thing that you can do with it is that you can actually, I'm gonna bring him over here. Slow is more powerful than haste. So we're going to do an arm's length here. He's going to hit me and he's going to cancel that haste. But what's weird about the Squirrel is that they want to have the Scamper up the entire time. So they're actually going to spend all this time trying to recast Scamper over and over because they can't get it up because that slow is there. And it's a good way to kind of stop these guys when you're trying to fight them. Really, really neat way to kind of have them under control. Otherwise, you do want to fight them with a proper burst because they will do a lot of damage if they get that haste off. It's a little bit, you know, you don't think it's going to be a lot, but once they start hitting you consistently, it's kind of like, oh, okay, it's a lot of damage coming in. Okay, it's fine. I'm gonna drag this with me. I'll check one more room, and then I will get off of the room. We're kind of mentioning about checking chests, etc., but the thing that I won't check the other rooms is if I have to get through a lot of enemies just to make it happen, then I would prefer not to. That I'm gonna skip, even though that would be very useful, because I probably have to deal with squirrels, and we're kind of okay right now. So we'll keep going. Like, if I was really desperate and I wanted that Potsherd, I could fight through it, but we're just kind of going. Something just spawned a Yarzon. Okay. Hold. Okay, next fort. 105. Alright, finally no blind. I can do full damage now. I got the steal in, that's very good. Let's see what we got here. That's the exit, so I'm actually gonna back away from the exit. You can already see the blue orb over there, knowing that that's the exit. Check all the other rooms first before we kind of continue. Now, I am a little unfamiliar with a lot of the trap locations for this floor set in particular, but I do know that there tends to be one on this particular room. It's a ramp leading up into like a lava pit with like the doorways on the left and right. There tends to be a trap on the left side of this room, like right along the corner. Like even if you hug the wall, you're going to hit a kind of trap. So we'll see if we get it today. And I'm ready to hit a witching if that's the case. And I have a plan of action if I hit a luring trap, so it's sort of a set play, if you will. Yep, there it is. That's the one I'm talking about. That one I remember and I kind of recognize as something that can be there. Thankfully, it's just an enfeebling. Checking this room before we go to the exit room. I will get that chest. Witching can be useful if needed for something bad. I'll pull the Stag with me here as I drag him to the exit. I will check these rooms as well. Serenity. Wow, that would have been nice at the previous floor. No chests over here. Let's check this room before we continue. Alright, one more chest here, and then we will go for the exit. Another witching. Okay, gonna pull this other squirrel, get the arms length up again like earlier. Kind of unnecessary because we had the full burst on, but it's good. Alright, to the next floor, 106 coming in. Alright, another blue chest here, which is going to be great for the power-up. 82, nice, okay. So we're getting there. So as kind of advertised, even though we started at a 59.59, we are closing in on trying to cap out here. So that's really good to see it. Gonna check the other room here to check what's going on in this room. Would still like more silvers, would like bronze chests. We haven't really seen too many bronze chests, although I did skip one intentionally. This Hippogryph, okay, we have a couple new enemies we can talk about here. The Hippogryph are confusing, so, you know, just kind of take it at a floor-by-floor basis. So let's deal with the Ladybug first. Ladybug is Sight. It will do a bit of a poison attack here, but not too deadly unless you deal with multiple of them. But the poison's not too bad. Again, it's more of a deadly thing when you have to deal with, like, multiple enemies. This Hippogryph, even though it's called a Hippogryph, and so the same Hippogryph that you saw on the previous set, this one is proximity. So I believe 101 to 10, and this one are proximity, and the one in 91 to 100 and 191 to 100 to 200 is Sight. Can totally get very confusing, but this one is proximity, so just be careful. They do the same exact moves pretty much. Strength coming in, great. And like minor detail kind of thing, but you know, if you're like walking past it, we told you it's Sight, and you're like, wait a minute, what's this Sight? It's just because it's like a different enemy. That's all. So we have to pull this because of the fact that it is blocking me from the chest. I do want this bronze chest. We also have our first instance of the Hornet, which I will pull. Now, unlike the Hornet on 1 to 10, these guys will still do their final sting, but they will not use it as fast as 1 to 10. I think 1 to 10, they're using it within like 20 seconds. These guys, I think, will take about 30 seconds to use it. Definitely a noticeable time difference between that. You will still avoid final sting the same way that you did earlier, which was just run away from it. If you pull another B, I'll demonstrate it so you can show, so at least you can see it in that front. But final sting is very easy to avoid. It's just you have to pay attention to it. And we picked up a Potsherd, by the way, which is fantastic. Alright, we have the last enemy here, which is really a couple of enemies here. The Dung Beetle is going to be something that you want to be worried about, because you want to only handle them one at a time. Their gap closer rhino attack does hurt quite a bit without steel on, if it hits me. Remember a time I was on Astrologian back in last expansion. It was a Gloom floor, and I was fighting 3 of them. As an Astro or healer, you're dealing with multiple enemies. And they lined up their rhino attack to come at me at the same exact time. And it just basically one-shot me. It just cleaned me out, just dead. I had a raising up, to be fair, but it was very shocking to me how, oh, here we go. Let's talk about that. I'm gonna witching this because the damage is gonna be really high if they all get it off. I kind of emergency sustaining potion there, but we did it as a safety. And they're both imps too, so that was exactly what I was kind of discussing, and of course the prophecy kind of went for it, but as you can see, even with the sustaining potion going on, they do hit quite a bit. But if I get them down to 1, it'll be pretty good. But if they got those Rhinos attacks at the same time, it would have been a little scary, as I don't have a raising on this set at the moment. So respect these for sure. Just handle them one at a time. Alright, well that's nice. The Gaelicat is a sound enemy, so I could totally avoid it. Nothing too impressive with the cat, to be fair. It does a double attack into a conal. I believe if you get hit with that conal, it will reduce your attack to nothing for like 30 seconds, so don't get hit with that. But they're pretty easy to fight, but generally I do skip them just because you have, you know, the proximity of the Hippogryph, and you have the proximity of the Beetles, which I don't think I mentioned. The Beetles are proximity patrols. Very annoying to try to navigate through. That is the exit. That's a Ladybug. Okay, we'll check the other rooms first. 83, very good. Let's go back and check some of the other rooms before we proceed towards the exit. I will take the Ladybug with me. think I checked any of these chests. Oh, I did. I checked that one. That was Lust. Okay. Okay, nothing here. I'm gonna proceed to the last floor and then circle back to that other one to the east. I can sneak around the left side. It's okay if I get an aggro here. Hugging the walls to avoid those traps as we have been. Witching K back, which is great because I just used it. We pulled everything up until now. Ladybugs, Hippogryphs, more Ladybugs, more Ladybugs. This one will come with me, it looks like, because it is site aggro. So we'll take it with me. Running and gunning with the Machinist way. Hippogryph, because I still need to kill something, so we'll just pull this one with me. As we move along these floors. Got a strength to come back, that's very good. Popping the strength here. Another instance of that bee, which I will showcase the bee for you guys. I'll pull it with me and drag it along with me. Okay, pulling the bee. So, again, what I want to showcase to you guys is the final sting. That you can get away from the final sting pretty easily. Now, the only situation in which you're probably going to run into a problem with final sting is maybe you pulled 2 enemies, or you hit a luring trap and it's still alive. You should definitely have enough damage to kill it in time, no problem as a Machinist here. But we're going to showcase that final sting. This looks like a decent spot. We actually found out that the distance in which you need to leave is like about melee range, but just for safety, just run away really far. So it'll try casting it, but you're out of range, and then it'll cancel. It doesn't do it right away. There's like a little bit of a cooldown if it tries to do it again. So you have some time before it tries to do it again. It won't just like continually spam it like some enemies. Like the scamper for the squirrel, so there's your example right there. It's really nice to know that because, again, people have died to final sting. Maybe they panic, maybe they don't know what to do. Just run away from them. No problem. Easy solution. I'm gonna re-up my food here because it is down to 9 minutes. Just to note that one. All right, Dung Beetle again. That is a gold chest. You can line of sight the Rhino attack. Well, I didn't do it there, but you can line of sight it if you get to a solid rock. But the floors here are pretty tough to pull that off. So it's not something I typically rely on, but it is possible to line of sight it. I'm gonna fight for this chest. The squirrel is facing me, so I will counteract this with the arm's length so it can just start spamming the scamper. Again, a really good strategy to kind of neutralize the squirrels here. Okay, checking the chests. Light, that's very good. Especially going into the 9th floor. I do have a strength here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this Ladybug and try to get the exit closer to the opening, so that I also don't have to come back here, and I get a little bit more of the strength being used. Okay, gonna pick it up now. Ugh. Okay, we had a couple respawns here. This is the spawn room, so I can use the donut room to avoid this. And we're probably going to kill this in time before the Hornet even decides the final thing, but we already have our strategy if it does it. Silver chest coming in here, which I'll try to get to because we need the thingy. I might get the Hippogryph, but that's okay. We did. I'm going to be careful here. So I could have opened that silver chest while fighting this, but it would have reduced both of our HPs down to a not a happy amount. So I'm going to get him below 70 here. Now I try to pop it. If it were to explode, I would one-shot it. I would dip low, but it's okay because I would have been alive, but the Hippogryph would have been dead. 70% is the magic number for the silver chest over there. I'm gonna check the chest first here in case it's a mimic. A mimic can still show up. We haven't seen a mimic in a minute, but it could contribute towards the exit. So let's do that. Nope. And now we pull the squirrel. You'll die before Scamper goes off, which is fine. Alright, to the 9th floor. A question over there from Candy Hands asks, can there be 2 floor traps in the same room? Never, ever in the history of Deep Dungeon. It can only be 1. Now, there's a possibility it can be 0, but it can never be more than 1, and also the spawn room does not have a trap, so worthy to note there. But you can never have 2 traps in a room. Great question, by the way. Thank you for that. Gonna pull the Hornet with my full burst here, if I can get to it. Yeah. This is another strength in the... Oh, I already opened it already. I committed. Oh, because this is also flighted, so I did commit to this. The Hornet probably has to go because it's kind of blocking me. Well, I can kind of get around the right side. Oh, there's our Mimic, by the way. From the gold chests. No different from any other Mimic. They will have a scaling kind of damage rising as we go higher and higher into the floors, but they're not too bad at all. They're actually going to be one of the fights you'd like to fight because they're not very complicated. Some enemies later on are going to be more complicated than a Mimic, and you'd rather just fight the Mimic. When we get to this run, for the latter half of this, you'll definitely see that in action for sure. I'll check that last room since it's very close to see if we get any good chests in there. Take a note at our arm and armor, it's looking pretty good, 85, 83. Now, one thing to note here, which is really, really cool in terms of the whole idea of going with a lower arm and armor. Starting at the floor 110 boss, you are getting a +1/+1 arm and armor every single boss climbing up from now on. You got a +1/+1 from 50 and 100, and not the other bosses, but starting now, you will get a +1 from every single boss going in. Here I will utilize the steel, just to kind of mitigate our healing here. This fight is actually pretty good to go without steel, no problem. But if I go without steel, I'm more than likely going to be having to use a sustaining potion to keep my HP up. So this is kind of a decision to mitigate the sustaining potion by utilizing a steel for that. And especially when we're going with a lower sustaining potion count, we currently only have 90 with 1 Potsherd in the bank. I would go a little bit more in the conservative mode, but if you have more than that, then hey, by all means, just go strength, go in and just pop those potions as your HP gets low. Would you say doing PoTD has gotten harder at damage HP scaling, if that makes any sense? It did. So when we're talking about the Endwalker stat squish, Palace did change a little bit. From what we had noticed and from what I had from my own observations and everything, and talking with the community, so on and so forth, from 90 to 140, the enemies felt a lot beefier. The bosses felt a little bit beefier, the enemies themselves felt chunkier. I actually remember I did a video back in Endwalker that I took a VOD of me killing like a certain enemy in those floors and then comparing it to when I killed the enemy in Endwalker, and you could see same rotation and everything, they died a lot slower in Endwalker. 100 boss is a really good example of something that got changed over with the stat squish. Like they are going, like it is a much harder fight than it used to be. But once you step into 141 plus, then everything feels more or less normal that it had been prior to the stat squish. So, I didn't talk about this boss, by the way. We kind of hopped into a question right away. But this boss is identical to the floor 10 boss. He is hitting harder, but the mechanics are exactly the same. You'll just see we're just running, gunning, just going around, just doing our damage. As I mentioned, like, without a steel, it's going to be a little bit spicier, because the dot that he gives with Windburn from his raid-wide AoE can catch up to you if you kind of run out of healing. But if you run with a steel, it's a little bit more comfier, because you will be able to kind of auto-heal your way to victory. But there's nothing complicated about the bosses. Really, all of the bosses climbing up will more or less do exactly what they did prior to The only difference is that some of them will just hit a little bit harder or a little bit more dangerous, so on and so forth. But you're pretty much expecting the same rotation. HP is a little bit low. I'm being a little conservative on my sustaining potion here. I'm waiting for that max potion to show up. And I will be repeating a couple things, but we are using max potions here. They are not the best potions, but max potions are what does drop in Palace of the Dead specifically. If you have access to hyper potions, which are from Eureka Orthos, by all means use those. They're gonna give you a little bit more HP. But just for the sake of this tutorial, we are going to use what the game gives us, which is the max potions, which is no problem at all. And that is 110. As you can see, we got a +1/+1 on the arm and armor killing the boss. So now we're 86-84 going into 110. Again, we started at 59-59 at floor 1 going in. So super potions are biz here, hyper potions not needed. But here's the thing, like, it depends on where you're coming from, right? So like, you'd have super potions if you had done Heaven on High, or you'd have hyper potions if you had done EO. But if you have neither, or you did one or the other, then, you know, you could use whatever. But the margin is really kind of whatever. Okay, do mimics count towards the kill needed for the floor? Yes, Jabaden. So one really good strategy that I like to utilize, and what's really important, especially in the higher floors, is as you're navigating, you get the chests before you open the exit, because you want the mimics to contribute to the exit. One rule of thumb I like to talk about, especially when you're talking about just trying to get the clear, anytime you do a kill when the exit is open, you are wasting time. No matter how you justify it, no matter what reasoning you give, you are wasting time killing something after the exit. And again, we're focusing in on like trying to get a clear. So if you can get those mimics within the kill count, going towards the kill count, mimics are fine. I mean, yeah, they suck, but hey, at least they're contributing to something. The common mistake people tend to do is that they'll open up the exit, like they'll kill, open up the exit, and then they start checking the chests. And then you get Mimic. Oh, the Mimic! Oh, it's like, oh my god, it's wasting time. Well, it's wasting time because you opened it after the exit's open, right? That's why it's bad. And they're not nearly as bad if you do it in the other way. So it's one thing to take into consideration, one thing that you want to try to do, even though it does cause a little bit more navigation. Maybe it seems like it's taking longer. But hey, when you feel like mimics are showing up, it's not a bad thing to have it contribute towards the exit. Hyper potions are better, or max potions. Hyper potions and super potions are going to be better than max potions because they give a little bit more HP. But again, max potions are the one that drop in here, so if you haven't done the other deep dungeons, then that's all you're going to be affording yourself. You get a +1 after killing all the boss. Yes, starting from now, Mitsu, every boss, 110, 120, 130, you will get a +1/+1 for killing all the bosses. Now, you get a +1 from 50, and you get a +1 from 100. But from the bosses starting here, you get a +1. You don't get a +1 from the other bosses that we just did earlier, from like, 10, 20, 30, 40, so on and so forth. 111 to 120. There is going to be a lot to go over here. There's this floor can get very quirky, and even some of my veteran buddies who do deep dungeon, they actually raising here because there's a lot of shenanigans that can go on. Now, we are gonna walk in here. I will raising. I don't typically raising here, but there's quite a lot that I want to show you guys that might cause me to die. So we're gonna be playing it really safe to be able to showcase some of these things. So let's hop on into 111. Alright, I'm gonna pop the raising here. We're actually gonna open up with a strength and a steel if I see toads. Alright, so that's the first toad. Strength. Okay, so we're gonna fight one toad here. Now, very important when we fight these toads. I'm gonna show you the proper way to fight these. Staring contest. You gotta look into their eyes. It's very important. Do not kite them. Do not do anything. Fight them. Mono-y-mono, stare at them. They do a sticky tongue into that late relief combo. Now there's a very important reason why we do that, and we'll get to it next time we pull another frog. Next we have this Urgonite. And they are the same as they were before. They're just going to open with a Kono, nothing overly special. One of the more calmer things to fight over here. Alright, we have the Toad number 2. So, the reason I'm telling you that you had to stare at the Toad's eyes and to do a staring contest is because these Toads have positionals. These ones in particular, not the ones 100 floors ago, these ones in particular. So, if my back is turned or my side is turned, so I'm going to keep my back turned right here, it will do the same sticky tongue, but it will do a stun because it's a positional. I am stunned, and I will be stunned into this Labor Leaf wombo combo. And without the steal, that can come close to killing me. So, if you ever fight a Gigatoad, you gotta be very careful. Try not to fight multiple, and make sure that you look at them until Sticky Tongue or just burn them down. Because without steal, that kills you. So, something to be very, very careful about on that one. Actually, one thing, I had a friend of mine who was dealing with, I think, 2 Toads and another enemy, and because their bodies are so big, they can't be in the same location, and so they were kind of like shifting themselves, so one was kind of angled and one was kind of in front, and when they both did Sticky Tongue, the one on the angle ended up actually stunning my buddy, and then he got comboed into Labor Leaf. So it's we have to be very careful. Now, pudding version number 2. This pudding will do casts, but it will actually sit in melee range. So it'll always come at me no matter what, and it will do that kind of tank buster kind of attack if it gets to me. So there will be another version of the pudding later on. The Leech are nothing too special, thankfully. They just do a point-blank small AoE. Pretty easy to deal with. They just do single attacks as well. Something just spawned in my left ear. A lot of chests on the ground that I haven't checked. Affluence in. I just like ignored all the chests. What the hell? I didn't check any chests. Okay, hold on. Let me check all these chests. I was busy yapping, so I'm... Okay, we're doing that intuition at least. I'll do that one. I'll do that intuition. Leech is sound. I don't think I went over the aggro ranges. The Ergonite is sound, the Gigatoad is sound, the Leech is sound, the Pudding is proximity. So if the Pudding is blocking a way that you need to go, definitely prioritize pull that, because it is in need proximity. Nice! I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna get this chest. Now, being a Toad in here is going to be tricky. Later on, we're going to run into those Cobras, and I mentioned them in floor 11 to 20, that there is a weird interaction where if you're fighting a Cobra, then you turn into a Toad, they have an ability called Devour that will one-shot you, and that still applies on this floor set, so you want to be very careful about that. Respect the Cobras big time as much as the Gigatoads, because, things can happen. That's why you see a lot, like I said, you'll see a number of people decide to raising this set because of that. Auto heal disable, kind of annoying, but we'll see. Maybe have to use some potions here. Pulling the Leech, again it is a sight aggro. Pulling the Bifericeras. They are, again, side aggro as well. Those puddings are proximity. Gonna be skipping this room because there's nothing in there. Walking along the walls as tight as we can. We still have the chance of hitting those traps, but we're trying our best to avoid as much of them as we can. Okay, Pudding, because that's proximity and it's just blocking me on the room. Again, it comes at me while casting as well. The Leech might aggro because it's looking in this direction, which it did. No problem there. One thing you want to be careful with is to try to get into the habit of not opening a chest while engaged in combat, because if it opens the chest now, and it's a Mimic, then you're all of a sudden dealing with multiple enemies. It's a habit that I am bad on, but, you know, I'll at least try to get you guys to do it correctly. Try not to open chests when you're fighting. Okay, 2 enemies here. May need to sustaining potion, we'll see. Okay, got 1 down. This is auto heal disabled, so this is what's kind of making it annoying. I have a max potion coming in, so I'm gonna hold on to my damage here. Again, we're kind of using the benefits of a Machinist right now because of that kiting. Get through, no problem. I don't think I can get that chest, but I'll see if there's another one. Negative, so we're just gonna go. Oh, Serenity. I mean, it's fine. I'm still not gonna go for the chest, though. I could, but I'm good. Erase those debuffs, very good. I do have to pull this, though. So maybe it worked out that I did do the Serenity. He's a little bit too close to the exit, so I'm gonna pull him out. Okay, this Urgonite could turn around, but... Ooh, oh, it's a Mimic. Doing the Infatuation, cancelling it with our Interrupts. Okay. These are sight, if that isn't obvious. Fortune. Use that extra bit, just for extra bit. We do have the toads here. Again, we're going to give them respect. We have about a couple seconds before we have to actually start to face it, so we're going to pull it out here. But right from here, respect. Just face it in the eyes, wait for that sticky tongue, and then start kiting. You probably have about maybe 20 to 30 seconds before it uses another sticky tongue. But for all intents and purposes, for being Machinist, you're probably going to kill it before that even becomes a thing. But definitely give it some respect. A lot of respect. Here's another. Let's give it some respect again. Facing it eye to eye. Do not turn around. Do not show your side. Otherwise, you will get stunned into late relief and you will probably die. Here's another. Okay, turning right now. Oh! Okay, that's okay. That's an easier enemy to fight. A little bit of a mistake in my positioning there, but we're okay because of the enemies that I picked to fight. And trying to mitigate our usage of the sustaining potion. Okay. Going in to check the other rooms. That's another toad. It is side aggro if that wasn't apparent as well. Ah, first instance of a slime. So, we showcased the slime 11 to 20. The slimes down there will enrage and kill you within 23 to 25 seconds. The ones up here will enrage as well, but they will do it in 35 seconds. 33 to 35 seconds. Additionally, each attack that they do will give you a bone down. Now, it's not particularly that important, especially because the recast is only 5 seconds, so it's only bad if, like, you're, it's only bad if you're fighting something else on top of it. Flight's really good. But you do want to make sure that you give that enemy some respect, and Machinist should kill it no problem within that 35-second bracket, but a lot of times I tend not to deal with it because it is a sound aggro, so I will usually just skip it, just fight something else, so I don't have to worry about it. I mean, imagine this worst case scenario. You fight one of the red slimes and you're kiting it around, then you hit a toad trap. And then you're in this panic of like, oh my god, it's going to enrage, and you have to like witching it right away. It's like, I just would rather not deal with it, especially because it is sound. So, but hey, look, if you're okay with your resources, so on and so forth, go right ahead and go for it. Here I have a free rage. I'm going to take advantage of it and do the fortune rage here. So I'm going to fortune now, and we're going to rage. Now, it is a smaller floor with 5 rooms, so we will take advantage of actually hitting luring traps on purpose to get some extra kills, to try to get some extra chests. Now, this again is useful right now, simply because of the fact that the room is really small, so I'm going to take advantage of it. We'll talk about the Cobras in the next set without the rage. But hey, at least you can get to the room, so on and so forth. There's another one here, which I'll take advantage of right now as well. This was a flighted floor, but it was a free rage, so we're gonna take advantage of it. Come here. I don't know if I get to that last room, but it's not that big of a deal, but I could probably get to this Urgonite. And then we'll clean up and then check all the things. As a refresher, this is a landmine trap. Just so you can see it. Got the rage coming back, actually, so that's interesting. I can actually rage getting back here. Switching... Rage for this one enemy, yeah. Oh, actually, maybe I should check the chest first. Hold on, I'll check the chest first. Okay, rage. You know what's funny is I didn't have to really do that because I have to now go and get the rage, but it's not a big deal. No big deal. I could have gotten the kill there. I could have gotten the chest there, I mean. But I think we did get a couple chests to drop anyway. That's the rage. I think this was an altar, and then this was, don't know. Switching, okay. You did see the first instance of the Cobra. They're not particularly that deadly. They do a poison on you, which can be a little bad if you're in a gloom floor or low HP floor. And it is particularly bad if you're maybe dealing with multiple of them. But as mentioned, they do that Devour that can one-shot you if you turn into a toad. So you do want to fight them in hallways and give them the absolute respect, just like the slimes. So the Gigatoads, the slimes, and the Cobras give them the absolute respect. Okay, more silver chests for the upgrades, yeah? Hell yeah. Here's the Cobra. Killing it in this room because this is safe. You'll see the poison go out. And it's gonna be a pretty respectable poison. 15 seconds, especially when you're not running the sustaining potion at the moment. I mean, you certainly can if you have a good stock, but again, I'm being a little bit conservative with my sustaining potions. You have the first instance of a Salamander. These guys, really quickly within their pull, they'll try to cast Mukin. I'll let this go off. What this is, it's a stone skin that applies like 50% of their HP additional on top of it, but it's 8 seconds, so you have to wait for it to wear off before you continue doing damage. It is interruptible, so you can do a head graze to interrupt it. It is definitely advisable to interrupt it, because otherwise you're just basically sitting there for 8 seconds doing nothing. So something to note on that one. Got my steel back, sick. Hoping I don't hit a trap here, which is very likely. Okay, ignoring the slime for now. We have the pudding, which is definitely blocking me. Alright. Skipping the slime. Alright, pulling... Oh, we have a Nanka. Now the Nankas are same exact as they were 100 floors ago, but they do shoot at you from afar. They are also sound, so we didn't go over the aggros here. Nanka sound and the Salamander sound. So you actually could skip a lot of these enemies on this floor set without having to really deal with them, which is kind of nice. But these are kind of easy, so they're not bad to fight. Okay, now we have the Salamander, which we pulled earlier. I will do and stop the Mukin just to demonstrate it. It's gonna come up. You can see the squiggly line. We do the Mukin, interrupted, boom. Doesn't get the Stone Skin on. Walking here to get to the silver chest. Holding. 88 now. Skipping the slow. Actually, I don't have this. I don't have to walk on the slime. Nice. I'll pull another Salamander here. Gotta watch for the Nanka because it's gonna shoot at me. Okay, exit's open, but I'm gonna check the floor. The other room, rather. Just in case we see something good. Silver chest is something I'd like to get to. There's a possibility I'm getting that pudding. That pudding is proximity, so it is a little close to this chest, but we'll do it anyway. I have a raising on, so it'll be fine. Ooh, it actually aggroed a lot sooner than I thought it was going to aggro. But it's okay. We'll just deal with it. Panning it around. Good. Alright. 2-6. Moving along. No problems here. Gonna start getting to another interesting one soon. Oh, something tried to shoot me, but it's fine. Okay. Alright, we're gonna respect the Cobra, pulling the Cobra now. It is a site aggro and a patrol. That's why it's good to take care of right away, so you don't have them floating around the floor. We have the first instance of the Ochus. Ochus are a little different than the ones 100 floors ago. Not more threatening though, thankfully. Basically what they're going to be doing is they are proximity, and they're going to be doing a giant AoE on the person. You'll have a lot of time to run away from it, but it is a big AoE right there, gold dust. You just want to be careful for that one. That's all they do. The previous floor, they would do an AoE slow, and that's pretty much all they're useful for. But here they do a little bit more than that. We are going with the Salamander here. There are 2 silver chests here, which is very good. We're gonna prep our interrupt bear to stop the Mukin. Watching the Nanka, keeping an eye on that one. Oh, actually, that was a mistake. I didn't realize I killed the Salamander, because I was just looking at the Nanka. It's not a big deal, but I gotta be careful with that. Didn't intend to pull that right away. And this is actually a really easy pull, because he is very spammy. We also got a respawn right now, which is the Ochu, so that's also interesting timing. But that's also not a problem. Again, it is proximity, so... But this one is pretty easy. We have the Cobra coming in, so I'm gonna run away from this thing for now. Gotta get into this room first. Okay, healing, up in the chest. We are at 90 arm, very good. Getting there, guys. Safety, very good here. We have that Cobra floating around that should be around the corner right about now. Yep, just like there. I can dip into this hallway, which is going to be really useful to avoid that, so that's really nice. Nice little hallway divot there that we can use to avoid that. 8690, very good. Moving along very nicely. Exit is that away, and there's a chest there that I'd like to check, but we'll check this one first. I want the silver. Checking HP, 82, we're good. So again, one thing to note about the silver chest, it will do 70% of your max HP. So what I've been doing now as a newer habit is I double check my HP and I just make sure I'm above 70 before I hit that silver chest. Really, really good check. Now, the easier one is just to make sure that you're at full HP, which is, of course, a lot easier to remember. But nowadays, I've been kind of like, okay, 70%. Alright, we're good. Let's go for it. But you definitely want to be careful opening silver chests. Get into that habit. It's killed many people. I've died to it before. You just want to make sure that that is not a reason why you lose a run, because that is completely human error. That silver chest is just sitting there. You made the choice to hit it, you know? Alright, we should be getting into Morbols coming in, which we got a nice strategy to deal with them, so... Get to this chest over here. Purite. The unneeded Pomander is a Machinist, which is really nice to say. I'm gonna pull this Ochu because it is in my way. It is proximity, so we gotta get rid of it. There is our Morbol. Best combo in the game is the Landmine Silver Chest. It is a beautiful combo. Alright, the Biloko are going to be very easy to deal with. They just do a conal. Now, if they are near an enemy, they will try to stone skin the enemy. So watch this. I'm going to bring them a little bit closer here. Now, the stone skin that it gives is kind of whatever. It's whatever. You don't really have to care about it. I could stop it with an interrupt, but that's basically what it does. It just kind of helps its buddies. Okay, gonna pull the Nanka because it is shooting at me from afar. And as you can see, we just kind of blew up the, we blew up the stone skin pretty quickly, so nothing to worry about. Now, one thing about the Salamander, which is a little deceiving, they have a giant hitbox, and I do find myself aggroing them a lot closer than you would think it is compared to other enemies in terms of sound aggro, so I give these guys a little bit more respect when I'm trying to walk around them and I have no intentions of pulling them. But they do have a ginormous hitbox. Alright, now the Morbol. We have a very interesting way to handle the Morbol. When you pull them, their first move is going to be, I think, a Sweet Breath. I forgot the proper name for it, but it does a slow and a sleep. And then it combos into a Bad Breath. So this thing is supposed to catch you off guard where, like, let's say you're typically melee range, and then it sleeps you, and then it tries to do Bad Breath, and it's like, you know, by the time you try to get out, it's like you get hit with Bad Breath, so it's designed to kind of catch you off guard here. So the best way to handle a Morbol is that you dive yourself in the middle of its hitbox, so that when it gets to sleep off right here, even if it doesn't hit you, you'll be able to move out of the way for this Bad Breath, no problem. So this specific enemy, make sure that you fight dead center, because in that case it did auto me in between right after it slept me, but that sleep is just long enough to get hit with Bad Breath, and it is designed like that. It is a totally wombo combo situation. That's one way to deal with that. That's the best way to deal with that Bad Breath. Steal. Ooh, there's another chest here. Go get it. Am I close enough? Oh, you're gonna come at me. Another seal. Ooh, that's useful. Okay, cool. Now, how far are you? Okay, in this distance that Salamander will pull, I could just fight it, but I'm like, I'm not feeling lazy. We'll just dodge around it, just showcasing our ability to bypass him too, so. Maybe worth noting that Stone Skin will prevent Rage from a one-shot kill. This came up in Discord the other day. Ooh, we can actually demonstrate that, shall we? Right, so what Ross mentioned here is that because that Salamander, which I mentioned before, that it does its Stone Skin, it pads into it half of its HP. So let's say its HP is 1000, the Stone Skin would give it plus 500. Now, a Rage will do full HP, will do the full HP of the enemy's current HP, but because it's padded by that Stone Skin, you will not actually one-shot it. It'll do like 1000, but you still have to cut through another 500. So we can actually demonstrate that here, right? So let me do the Rage. I don't care. It's a cool demonstration. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Ross. So I'm gonna get the aggro here. Okay, wait for this Stone Skin to come off. So normally this will get one-shot if we hit it right now. Waiting for that Mucin to get off. Now we hit it. half the HP. Actually, it's more than a little bit of half. That's actually just... I thought it was actually a flat 50%. That only brought it down to 60% there. So that's as much. I mean, again, if you're thinking of 1,000, then it actually padded up to 600. So it definitely is worth noting because I think one of the biggest habits people have, especially like with landmines and everything, and like if enemies are regenerating their HP, people will hit an enemy with a rage and automatically assume that it's dead. And there are situations where that is not the case. One of the super niche ones, if an enemy is actually at a lower HP and it's regenning, you could get it on a really odd server tick that it does technically kill the enemy, but then the server tick kicks in, and then it kind of regens it so it doesn't technically die. And the amount of times I've watched people like hit it and like turn the camera and continue going, and they're like, "Wait, it's still alive." Yeah, you gotta like just definitely look at the body. Just check the body. Just make sure it's dead. That's definitely one way to make sure that you don't make that mistake. And that would be one situation that happens. Thankfully, the Salamander doesn't really do that much damage, but it's still worth noting. I'm gonna go and get this chest just in case it's something that I need to pick up. Oh, actually, these are all proximity. First instance of a seedling, by the way. The seedlings are not overly impressive. Unlike the Morbols, which are proximity, these are all sound. Did I say proximity? These are all sound, so I can avoid all of these enemies. We are going to pull the seedling. Seedling doesn't do anything special, like I said. It will occasionally do a poison stack on you, but again, it's occasional, which is really weird, because its Heaven on High counterpart is 100%. But here it's like, every so often, it'll hit you, and then it'll get the poison in. Right? Oh, I guess it's every hit. Okay, well, maybe because I dodged it, that's why. You can do it again? I guess it's every hit. Okay. I actually thought it was going to be, like, every so often, but yeah, it is every hit. So, the poison is kind of whatever. It's only an 8-second poison. It's nothing too big, so you can just... It's not a bad pull, but again, it's one of those categories where, because it is sound, you can just kind of bypass it. Because there are other things to fight. You know, things that are not in fact sound, and you have to fight them. Stopping the infatuation there. Okay, silver chest. Excellent. 9286. Very good. Oh, I was too close. That's fine. I think he was moving. Oh. That Salamander got a little close too. Luckily I didn't get that aggro. It wouldn't have been that big of a problem, but... Keep more. Okay, Affluence, we'll use it because we are on the 8th floor. I'll pull this one just so I can get to that chest a little bit faster. Especially with the big hitbox of this thing. Checking chests. Strength. Very good. It might carry into the boss, which would be very useful. What is this? Affluence, which I used, right? Seedling. Okay, so we've seen everything on this floor. So we have pulled everything, you have seen everything. So if anything, just a quick review on this one. The Gigatoads are probably the most deadliest that you want to be watching out for. Definitely the first way to die on these floors. The Cobras, you just have to be cautious with. Just pull them in a hallway, pull them in the spawn room. Don't fight them while moving around, and you'll handle them no problem. And then the Morbols, again, can catch you off guard. Make sure you hide under their hitbox to avoid their common wombo combo type of hit. And to reiterate, this is why this floor set is kind of notorious for people to actually consider raising on, just because there's a lot of BS that can happen here. And even into the next floor set. The next floor set, you don't have nearly as much BS as you do here, with all these weird combos and everything like that. So again, in the hitbox here, we just slept. I got hit immediately, which is good, and we can go in out of here. Alright, we're out. Let's go off to the next floor. One more to the boss. The boss I will do in my usual strategy. So I'll showcase my usual strategy of how I handle that boss. Which I think is a pretty safe one. You don't necessarily have to do it the same way I will do it, but I think it's a pretty good one to utilize. Ochu, I do want that silver. Looks like we probably get 99.99 probably by 140, which is really, really cool. It's actually a little bit earlier than I thought I was going to get it, so I'll take it. 89. This is a auto heal. This is rather a gloom, no item, so we'll play a little bit carefully. My steel is dropping. Ooh, that's... Oh man, that's actually very tempting. I might actually go for it so I have a steal on the boss. Yeah, we'll just do it. I'll have a steal on the boss. Now here, we had kind of had this question a little bit earlier in one of the earlier floors. Is it worth using a Serenity for a steal and or strength? Now, I would argue here, you can probably get away without that. But here's the thing with these bosses coming forward. The steal is really nice, but it's not necessary. The bosses aren't that hard to deal with. However, since we're working with a lower stock of our Potsherds and a lower stock of our sustaining potions, it will help me mitigate the use of it, where if I had to go on to the next boss without a steal, then I will have to use a lot more, well, not a lot more, but we're going to be using sustaining potions to kind of help us stay alive. So it's something that, you know, if you're listening to this and everything, and you're like, you have a really good stock of Potsherds and a really good stock of sustaining, it might be less of a concern. You're like, ah, whatever. I'll just, you know, pop my potions on, so on and so forth. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But I am currently working with 90, and I believe I've only picked one up. So we have to be just a little bit conservative as we climb through the floor. And this is, again, an example towards someone who may also have, like, a limited amount and trying to see, like, oh, can I get through with this amount? We're kind of putting that on display right now. Machinist can do a lot to mitigate the usage of your sustaining potion. Kind of the power of this job of what it's capable of doing, which is really nice. And I get the Serenity back anyway, so whatever I just talked about, forget it, doesn't have any meaning. It is what it is, that's RNG. The logic was there anyway. And we did get a strength and a steal. But we're still early enough for the Serenities to be that valuable. We could definitely get through the next couple of floors without really needing to use the Serenity. Yeah, I do want that silver. Oh, I was trying to see if I can sneak around through here. I may have to fight the Morbol here. Yeah, I definitely have to fight the Morbol. I'll just fight the Morbol. Again, middle of the hitbox here. Got lucky that he actually hit me every single time. Alright, pick up the silver, and then off to the boss we go. Oh, never mind, just kidding. Forgot about the Ochu. Gotta actually get out of walk here because I need to avoid that AoE. Okay. Basically, the rotation of this boss is going to be the same thing that you encountered 100 floors ago, but it is a little bit more scarier and hits a little bit harder. So we're going to implement a strategy that I like to do. We have to definitely respect the B-ads that will show up, so we'll talk about it as we go along, but for most bosses, we actually would open with the Lust and then try to plant the lust and then try to get them down. But there's a little bit of a safer strategy that I like to do for the first set of ads for the bees to kind of do two birds with one stone. I wouldn't really say it's optimal, but it's the strategy that I like to go with. So whatever works for you, you know, so on and so forth. So let's get the pull in. So the first rotation it's going to do is going to do that Tank Buster Cleave, which we can heal up if we need to, but the damage is okay because we have that steal on. It will do a point blank. That is a poison that it has, so it'll just give you a poison. And then it'll do an AoE on top of me. After this, it'll do a raid wide and then dive to the gate. It'll, no matter how it travels, actually you can even bring it all the way over here, and it'll walk all the way over to the gate side. So that's a raid wide. Now it's going to go all the way over there. Once it gets all the way over there, then it summons the bees and gets prey. It'll do 3 line AoEs as the bees are coming at you. This is the part of the time when I do the first lust here, because I will hit the boss and the bees at the same time. It'll take about 4 hits to kill the bees, I believe, or 3. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That's its 3rd line AoE, by the way. This is 4. And this is 5 to get the 5 bone stack here. Okay, now we just kind of rinse and repeat in a way. The bees come out, we have to kill all of them. Now, the bees themselves, the final sting that they do, will do roughly 70 to 80% of your max HP. Now, for a Machinist and a DPS, you probably just want to kill it, honestly. For some other jobs, you do, like, you can get away with killing one and then tanking the other. But for a Machinist, I highly recommend that you respect the bees coming out and you kill the bees. We're popping a first potion here for the heals. Okay, bees are coming out. Let's kill them out. We have 3 line AoEs before they start doing final sting. That is your indication. So that's the first line AoE. That's the second line AoE. You'll know that it's about to do final sting because the boss will start to come at me, because after the 3, it's gonna stop from the gate position. You'll have roughly about, I would say, maybe about 5 seconds before it starts casting final sting after it starts moving. So with strength on, you definitely are going to be in an okay position to kill those bees in time. Without strength, you can definitely pull it off. You probably want to hold a couple cooldowns, potentially maybe have a heat blast or something. Raid wide again. Here we should have enough damage to probably kill it before the bees become a problem here. So we will focus damage to drop the boss. 10% when it starts off here, 8% here. The bees don't do that much damage when they're hitting me on their own. Again, they're more deadly because of that final sting coming up if they get it off. And the boss is dead. And we get a +1/+1 on the arm and armor yet again. So we are 95-90, starting from 59-59 on this run. So pretty good. That is 111 to 120. We are going to be stepping into floor 121 plus here. That's our file that's going in. Just to review, we did start at floor 1 at 59-59 arm and armor. We had about 62-63 by 50, and now at about 120 we are at 95-90. So this is kind of a showcase of, like, you can go at a lower entry point if you don't have to be at 99-99. It would be recommended, especially for a first-time runner, but if you're progging your actual thing, like if you're doing it for the first time and you're trying to just learn the content, you don't have to start at full arm and armor. So that's one entry point. Additionally, I took away all of my Potsherds, I took away all of my sustaining potions, I put them in my saddlebag so they wouldn't show up in my character. We started with 20 sustaining potions, and up until this run, we have gotten it back up to 89. We've used a handful so far. I do have 1 Potsherd, which I will exchange right now. So this is also showcasing you don't have to have a big stock right now, but of course we'll see how the later floors go, you know. So let's get in. 121. Alrighty. I would say 121 is going to be a little bit more chill than the previous set. The previous set definitely had its highlights about what enemies you're going to be dealing with and how to handle them, but there's a lot less of it here. There's a couple things that would be noteworthy. First of all, it would be the Spriggan. The Spriggan are going to be sight-based, but they are casters, and they are going to cast out of combat. Now, that's not particularly bad, except for one little wombo combo that can occur which I'll try to see if I can replicate here. So I'm gonna actually wait for this thing to kind of shoot at me. This Tarok here is sight. Oh, there it is. There's the cast there. The Tarok here is sight. It just does double attack. I believe this one does a point blank, but it's nothing to be too worried about. Just run away and kill it. You can also cut it if you need to. I'm gonna go get this chest as well as we go through the floors. Be careful along the walls. These are still the cave floors, so traps can be annoying, to say the least. Gonna proceed. Actually, I'll pull this with me right now, because we may not come back here. We'll kill it on the way through, and we'll see what else the rest of the floor has to offer us. There's only one enemy that I dislike the most here, and I'm sure we're gonna run into it. Tarok. Alright, we're gonna proceed to the right side here. Steel is great, so I guess we'll just pop the steel. We're still kind of in a slight conservative mode with our Pomanders. I do want to check that room. Ah, here we go. Okay, the Beist. So the Beist is an issue here, because it'll do a Paralyze. Now, the wombo combo that can occur is that I get instant Paralyzed here. It follows up with this AoE here, which is kind of a double combo there. But the Paralyze is extra bad if you have Spriggan that are around, because the Spriggan could also shoot at you on top of the Paralyzation, even after this fight's over. So that could be a little bad. I've heard of people having a little bit of a bad time with that. So recommendation here is either handle out the Spriggan, or just make sure that you're going to be mindful and stay in motion as if there is a Spriggan around. Now, what sucks is that sometimes you won't see the Spriggan, because they can still shoot at you from a distance if you don't visually see them. Like, it could be around this pillar here, and then you don't see it. But the Beists are one that are the most annoying in my opinion. They are sight aggro, so you could just avoid them if you want to, which honestly would be a better option if you can help it. Now we're gonna pull the second Beist here. I've had a couple of questions of people asking me, well, could you use Spine Jobs? Yeah, you could use Spine Jobs. There are Spine Jobs that are here. Let me see if I have them in my inventory here. I know I had them before. Let me see. If I can just eye it. They were somewhere. I'm gonna pull this instead while I'm looking. They are... Well, I thought I had them. Ooh. Oh, I'm just blank because of my inventory. Anyway, you can use Spine Drop. Oh, perfect example, actually. We'll just do this one. Now, the thing with the Spine Drops is that they share a cooldown with your Sustaining Potions. So if I were to use this, let's say this was a Spine Drop, and I use it, it's putting... The antidote is a 1 minute cooldown, but it puts my Sustaining Potion on a 1 minute cooldown. So in my hotbar, it says 50 seconds on that Sustaining Potion on the top hotbar from the left, the fourth one in. So that's kind of the downside of using an item like a statistical item like a Spine Drop or an Antidote. Now, on these floors, you can argue that it's worth it because you're probably not using a Sustaining Potion here at the very least. But it's worth noting that you wanna do that. So alright, we're gonna proceed to the next floor. The Spriggan might get me. Nothing just to spawn here. I have to pull the Tarok. Oh yeah, and that's gonna aggro. That's fine. So we'll kill both of these, no problem. As I stay in motion. Now the Spriggan will do haste at some point. Usually you don't get to haste because of the amount of time you kill it. And all that's gonna happen with haste is that it's just going to cast faster with its AoE. Since you're a Machinist, you're gonna be staying in motion a lot. So you should be able to avoid that fast AoE anyway. And it's not too big of an issue. But it is worth noting because it is what it does. And the only reason you keep it alive that long is like in my situation we double aggro or something like that. Alright, that's first clip. And again, we're still maneuvering along the walls to avoid as many traps as possible. first instance of a Dullahan. Dullahan is sound. It's a little bit of an annoying enemy. Basically what it does is that it'll do a conal, and if you leave it alive long enough, then it will it'll give itself an on drain, where every hit it does, it'll heal back a little bit. It is interruptible, so I'm gonna let it stay alive here a little bit longer, just so you can see that move come in. It is interruptible, so you can do your head graze to stop it. Now, we're well ahead of that DPS check, if you will, especially with the strength on. But that's what it does on that front. Checking chests here. What do we got? Witching. Save the witching in case something goes bad. Reminder that mimics can come from chests, from gold chests, only from gold chests. So the donut room here can be a little spicy due to the fact that there can be traps along the edges of it, even though, you know, even if you hug the wall, you have a potential of hitting those traps anyway. So how we're going to handle the donut room here is we're going to play it extremely safe. We're going to pull out both of these Beists and then proceed along it. Now, worth noting here, it is going to be recommended, if you have to fight a Beist, try chaining them and try pulling multiple at a time. Because one, the Paralyze is a diminishing return. Basically what that means is that your first instance of the Paralyze will be 30 seconds. Once this wears off, if you get another Paralyze within 60 seconds, then it'll be at half reduction. It'll be at 15, and the next time it'll be at 7, and the next time it'll be at 3 or 4, until you're finally in full immunity for 60 seconds. That's, I think that's like a general MMO rule in terms of the term diminishing return. And this will be definitely important later on. Ooh, we got that wombo combo with the Spriggan right there. So that's actually a pretty good example of that. And we got hit with Electrified, so that's one thing to be worried about. We did have the steal there, so that's actually a perfect example of what I was demonstrating earlier. But there is a benefit to pulling multiple enemies of the same type that give that debuff, because you'll have that 1 minute immunity going through. And it is a 60-second timer, so if I don't get another Paralyze within 60 seconds, then my immunity is gone and it goes back to reset. 60 seconds. It is on application. And it's funny, you know why I know this, Ross? It's because of my PvP days, where we had to deal with diminishing return back in Heavensward, and it was such a thing to know what that timer was, because you were essentially like lining up your bursts within like 1 minute window frames. You know, it's like, oh, okay, 60 seconds is gone, their immunity is gone, let's go right at them. So it's 60 seconds, and again, it's on application. So I believe so why you may think it's 30 is because if you hit, it's on application. So if you're resistant and then you take the thing, it's 60 seconds from that point on that you'll be clear and immune. I'm gonna bypass these. These are slight just to almost demonstrate that for a little bit. And the first mech, which is perfectly fine. Now head grades here, when the infatuation goes off, we are enervated as well, so we're doing a little less damage, but that's okay. Avoid that Spriggan, just keep mindful of it, stay in motion. One of these things that Deep Dungeon likes to do is to make sure that you're always paying attention. It's like you can't take your eyes off the screen with these little checks. I remember that being a thing when I first encountered these enemies, that it was just a focus check, you know? Like, oh yeah, these things are just gonna occasionally shoot you. At least these guys don't do lethal damage. I mean, things in other Deep Dungeons can do lethal damage out of combat, but these ones, you know, they'll tickle, but they're still kind of annoying regardless. And it's a good habit to be in motion anyway. We'll do the Dullahan here. And we have our first instance of the Adamantors. It is no different really than the other Adamantors that you encountered 100 floors ago. However, they do have a little bit of a soften rage, where if you leave them alive long enough, they will get a defense bonus. Usually the timer, I'm not sure actually what the exact timer is, but my indicator here is that it does 2 AoEs. It'll do 2 point-blank AoEs, and then directly after the second one, it'll do the defense bonus. And the only reason that's really bad is because of the fact that it is a physical defense bonus, so you will do very limited damage because of that. So we're gonna let it go off just to showcase that. I believe magic can go through it no problem because it is a physical thing, but there's Hardened Shell, not even interruptible, and you'll see the damage mitigation from it is pretty intense. It's a lot. Even with Drill, you're not doing that much. Again, this is one of those cases for Machinist where you're probably not having this thing alive long enough for it even to get to this point. But in case you're wondering, that's what it does. Okay. Henry asks, how do you generally approach looking for chests on the floors? Do you prioritize exploring the map for potential chests even if the passage is open? If the passage is open, usually I'll find my way out, especially on the higher floors. So the balance that you want to have, Henry, is that as you're navigating and you're getting your kills out of the way for the key, you're also checking the rooms. So if there becomes an instance where, like, I killed a little bit too much, and let's say the room is 8 tiles big, and I only managed to find, like, I don't know, let's say 4 tiles, and the exit's open and I already know where the exit is, I will not really go to the other rooms unless I'm a little desperate for Pomanders. Because that's a lot of time. And you also have to consider, if you have to fight your way through those chests, that can also be a problem as well. So, as you see, I'm kind of like navigating through the rooms on top of getting like maybe 1 or 2 kills per room, and getting to the chests on my way through. And that's usually how I go through most of my floors. And that's how you get that balance, because a rule of thumb is that if the exit is open, any kills that you're doing past the exit is a waste of time. Now, no matter how you look at it, it is a waste of time killing anything past the exit if you're just going for a clear attempt. So you want to make sure that you get it to be equalized so that you get to all the rooms while getting the appropriate amount of kills. The Wyvern here is no different than the previous Wyvern. It is also proximity, and we're going to be handling these a little bit later. They just do double attacks, so they're not that great to deal with, especially on the higher floors. But it is a-okay here because they're not going to hit you too much. I will skip that chest, and the reason why is because I'm already riding a strength here, but it's not too big. I'll check this chest, though. That is a luring trap, just as a reminder. And a little nasty spot, too. It's only 1 step off the wall. A lot of lusts. To the next floor we go. Yeah, I try to balance the two of them as I go through the floors of chest and navigation, chest and navigation. On the later floors, it's going to be a little bit of a different strategy, because it's either 1, we don't need the palms, or 2, time is getting a little tricky. But on these lower floors, when you really shouldn't be too worried about time, it definitely is a good opportunity to start stocking up on Pomanders if you haven't already. Because in about 20 floors, you're going to start feeling the heat of the difficulty kick in, and that's when you may start using palms because you're running out of time, or because things are getting difficult, as opposed to because you're just getting extra, if that makes sense. Cheers, thank you for the question. Another Wyvern. This Wyvern, questionable if it'll aggro. I think I'll be safe here. Yep, and we'll take the side too. Good. I will take the Wyvern with me, though. Opening sprint here. For the kiting. I'm going to the exit. I'm going to go the opposite way so I can get to some chests on the other side. Okay. 2 Adamantoids here. Steal. Fantastic. Again, it is 2 AoEs before they do their Hardened Shell, but you'll see we'll kill it long before even the second AoE comes into play here. And that's a respawn, love it. Respawns here, I believe... I can maybe have chat double-check me on this one, but it is going to be 90 seconds on the respawn up until you get to 151. So they are pretty common and pretty quick. But you kill fast enough for it not to be overly annoying, and not to mention a lot of these handful of the mobs can be sites, so it won't be too terrible. This thing might get his haste off because we did leave it alive and we did kill it second. It definitely was the least threatening between the two of these enemies that I fought. Wouldn't want to deal with the Adamantoids with its full defense on, as you had seen earlier with how much it actually mitigates. I know, the Mimic, we've been heavy on the Mimics today. But hey, it's part of the journey. Maybe I can take away the Mimics from you guys, so that your runs will not have Mimics. Infatuate, respect. Gonna go towards the exit here. I may skip that last room because we already have the exit open. that. This is a donut room, so that's great. That trap there is pretty safe, as you can see over there. At least if you hug the wall, you shouldn't take it. I'm pretty sure I'm getting this Vice with me, even if I check this chest. Okay, I'm gonna pass it for now. I'll check the chest here, but I may get shot, and the Wyver is a little far from me, so that should be okay. Not too. It was like at its edge. It's okay. I was buying time, by the way, so that I can grab this chest, because the Vice was looking right at it. So that's one reason why I actually went to the other room, to give it time to move. Wasn't anything useful, but that's not a big deal. Alright, into the next floor. Halfway through. Halfway through, and our time is still pretty good. 17 minutes into this floor. Not too bad. So even with a little bit of stop and go, even with some extra explanation and some extra demonstrations, we're still moving along very nicely. That flight's going to be good for a time save. Wyver. So here, this Wyver in particular is important to kill. Why? It's on top of the exit, and it is proximity. So another thing about kind of going for kills and what to kill, a lot of times, something that I may take for granted, you're gonna see me fight things that are kind of either surrounding the exit or blocking me from where I want to go. So this Wyver is blocking me from checking the room to the north, whereas that Adamantoise may not necessarily be a problem for me, assuming it, depending on which position it's looking at. So a lot of my priority on kills is going to be A, blocking the exit, which is high priority, B, blocking or into a room that I may want to visit. Or C, which is, I guess, would be appropriately the middle priority, is that, it is an enemy that I deemed easier to kill versus something else. Now, on these floors, everything is pretty killable and pretty okay. But later on the floor, that kind of rule set will definitely be important. Now, interesting with this one, this is a little bit of an extra tidbit for the well-knowledge Deep Dungeon runner, and may not necessarily be something that someone going for their first clear may utilize unless you're going for scoring. But the score runners refer to this floor set, 121 to 130, as Luring City. And the reason why is because this floor, for some reason, will have a extraordinary amount of luring traps on the ground. And for some coincidental reason as well, is that you will see an overabundance of sight commanders. So if you've noticed, we've had a sight for almost every single floor climbing up here. But that's kind of one reason why you do have these little adjustments of RNG when it comes to some commanders and some chests and some debuffs and whatever. Well, no, did I say debuffs? No, I wouldn't say debuffs, like traps and stuff. Which is interesting with Deep Dungeon, that it isn't necessarily a flat percentage throughout the entire thing. There are some places where it's just tweaked here and there. So, and it's one thing that made me remind me as we were getting like sight after sight after sight after sight. It's because it is actually a common thing, statistically speaking. And something that I believe DD Compendium has shown, which is why we kind of have a little bit of that knowledge, and of course score runners and their multiple bunch have just seen trends and then kind of reconfirmed it within themselves. So, into floor 6. So, with that information in hand, may not be a terrible idea to kind of use your sights a little bit more aggressively. And here's another one. But it also is something just to point out as like, oh man, there's a lot of sights here. Yeah, it's not you, don't worry. There's a lot of little funny theories that we have in Deep Dungeon that maybe you're like, man, I've noticed this thing happening because of this. A lot of it is actually not just you, it's actually pretty legit. Superstitions, combinations, whatever it might be. It's pretty fascinating with this content. Yet another site. Alright, effigies here. These are gonna be exactly the same that you encountered 100 floors ago. They're going to do a very kind of longer casting AoE. That thing just does a knockback and a little bit of damage, not too threatening. These are definitely a go-to kill because they are also sight. But you're gonna start running into a lot of proximity enemies too, so you may want to take care of the proximity over these guys. There's quite a lot of them here. There's another luring trap right over there. Check these chests as we're going through. Got my resolution back. We got our raising back too. Basilisk, first instance here. They like to do their nice little wombo combo of a petrify attempt into a body slam. or AoE. Well, this one actually starts with it. I believe it's gonna then eventually do the petrify. Yes, yes, yes. You gonna show it to me, or you just gonna do body slam? There it is. So in this case, this one did it reversed, where it did the body slam first and then the petrify. Now, a note for here, especially if you're someone coming from maybe Heaven on High, or perhaps even Eureka Orthos, the petrify here is not like the petrification commander of Heaven on High. Actually, some of the petrification, both in Heaven on High and Eureka Orthos, if you get hit thereafter, you are dead in one shot. This one is just the stone debuff. You are stoned for X amount of time, and you could recover. It's just you can't do anything, nor can you erase it. You just have to wait for the debuff to go off. Okay, I think we've covered everything on this floor, so let's just get off the floor and get to the next one. Alteration. Yeah, I'll leave it alone. You want to see enemies more than the same old mimic, which we've already killed twice, or actually 3 times, I believe. I'm gonna wait to kill this here, because I may need to pull something with me. Nope, we're out. Alright, good. Again, I mentioned at the top of this set that this one will feel a little bit better. Ooh, a centaur! Let's talk about this one. I'll get back to that conversation. This is proximity, and usually one of the more annoying ones because it is proximity, especially with the claustrophobic feeling of the cave floors, so you may have to deal with him regardless. We're gonna pull it just for the sake of the demonstration. It will open up with a berserk followed by a point blank. Not too bad of a pull at all. You'll probably kill it long before it even becomes a threat. That berserk is not really threatening either way, even though it gives it a physical up. We're on the lower floor, so it's not going to be too big of a deal. Handle it right there. As I was saying, on the beginning of the floor set, we were talking about how this one will feel a little bit better, a little bit easier than the previous one. The previous one, really, I mean, the enemies, like, on paper are not going to hit you harder. Everything will slowly scale up with difficulty. It's just a lot of the complexities of, like, certain enemy mechanics, certain, like, tricky situations makes that floor set a lot more complicated than this one, where everything is a little bit more straightforward. And I would say this is one of the... This one and the next set potentially are kind of your softer landing pads to kind of warm up. One reason why a lot of times when I do my own attempts, I usually go from 1 to 120 and then 121 to 200, because this is a good warm-up floor. Even the next one is a really good warm-up floor. And I used to have a little bit of a superstition where, like, if I started on the higher floor, I would need a little bit of prep, I would need to get in the state of mind, and maybe it wasn't enough time for me to get there. And then I remember one of the first times in Heaven on High, I tried to step in, I think straight into 71. And I botched the whole run, like, right away. But this is when I was first going for my title, and, you know, I've soon gotten out of that. But, it's a fair thought, you know, maybe you do want to warm up, etc. We're gonna pull this one. The Urolith, it is proximity as well. It is a bit of a caster. It'll do some casts to top of its melee. Again, not too bad at all. A lot of these enemies are going to be a lot worse if you're dealing with multiple of them at the same time, especially if you don't have steel on. But solo like this, not a big deal. It'll do a cast, it'll also do, I believe, an AoE at some point, but it's okay, we just kill it out. Yeah, another suggestion, if you needed a warm-up going into the higher floors, is to take a double file. A lot of people do like the double files climbing up. And to do one to warm up that way might be a decent idea instead of just hopping into your big one. Skatine, these are the most annoying of anything. They are sound, they are owls, but they are sound, so we're gonna take off the toggle and you'll see them aggro. Now, the only bad thing about these guys, they're exactly like they were 100 floors ago, where they do chirp, which is the sleep here, and it's very hard to try to line of sight this because of the way the caves are organized. A lot of times it's just better for it to get the sleep off and then take the hit and then kill it, so something to note on that enemy. But they are patrols as well, as you're seeing them go through the hallway. But they are just really more annoying than anything. They don't really do that much damage, they're not really threatening at all. But they are definitely something that I know a lot of people just don't like running into because of just their annoying nature. Taking care of this effigy, checking the chest on top of that, yet another lust. I'm gonna drop the drill here. If the exit opens, I will go. If not, I will check another room. Nope, that's gonna aggro. Yeah, okay, that's fine. This sights. Donut room here, we're gonna play it safe again. I'm gonna kill this first before I even think about traveling through the donut room because of the high possibility of me hitting a trap here. I would rather... Oh, and then also there's that too, where we just get a respawn over there. If anything, like, I'm okay with traveling through a room if it's, like, not a donut room. You know, the chances of me hitting a wall trap on, say, the previous room, I feel are pretty small, but the possibility of me hitting a trap on the donut room, very big. And again, the kind of a way to cleanly navigate along these floors is mostly just keeping the risk as low as possible. So A, you would go through the room without actually fighting something, so that if you hit a trap, you know, it's okay, I hit a trap, I mean, at least nothing else is on me. Or you would, like, walk the path first, and then walk the same exact path back while also doing your kiting. That's one way to also handle moving through the floors, but this is what kind of keeps me consistent through each of the climb and not making these tragic mistakes, especially through the cave floors, which are very notorious for really bad traps. You love killing them as chirp, says Nerio. As they chirp me so I stay in full sleep. Well, we each have our own preferences. That's a 15-second sleep, so you're basically AFK for 15 seconds. But that can happen with some very bad timing. It's basically like the cast goes off and you get a GCD off, and then boom, you slept. It actually makes me want to try to duplicate that. I mean, we did do that on the previous set too, but if we run into an owl, I might try to see if I can pull it off. Checking chest here. So again, as I navigate through the rooms, I want to have a clear path as I travel through here, just in case we hit a trap. So even if I do, it's the lowest risk here. And you'll see that I am also killing in hallways and staying within the hallways. Now, here, because I already walked this path, I'm okay kiting this back to spawn room, because it's like, you know, retracing your steps in like a snowfield, right? You can see your footsteps. So provided that you follow the same steps, well, it's a safe walking path. Traps don't move dynamically on the floor. They're only going to be in one location, so it's not a bad thing to do like that. Tuition... Let me go this way first. Oh, that's... Never mind. This is only one way. I'm going to go through the room first, again, with everything it's safe, and then I will pull once I'm in the hallway. Can traps ever spawn in the entrance room? They cannot ever spawn in the entrance room. The spawn room, which actually it's a lot clearer than the last time we talked about this, you can see the flag on the map, on the bottom right corner of the map. That is indicating the spawn room, and the spawn room will never have a trap. Now, enemies can still spawn in a spawn room, Slife-in, so that's possible. So it isn't 100% safe, but at least you don't have to deal with traps, and it is definitely a very good spot where, as a job that's kiting, as a job that's running around and trying to avoid damage, it's a really good room to use as that kind of safe room so that you can run around the edges of the wall so that you can keep distance from your enemies. Using that affluence. So here, again, we have a donut room. I either don't want to aggro, or I want to make sure that I'm getting clean to the next room. So here I'm going to be clean because that is a sight enemy. 2 proximity enemies here. I will fight this here because I need to get to the next room towards the exit. That's true. There is a bit of a glitch on 141. You know, it'll be really, really good if the game were to display that on this run in particular, so we can scare everyone. There is basically a little bit of a glitch on 141, which I have encountered personally, that you can trigger a trap as you're spawning into the floor set. I've only seen it once in 9 years, so if you know, something not necessarily you have to worry about, but... Blight I'll use. Oh, actually it doesn't matter. We're getting to the boss floor here. Perfect. I will probably re-up the Strength and Steel for the boss floor. I definitely will recommend, as the first time runner, to think about doing a Strength Steel here. The reason why this boss is very beefy with his HP. It's gonna feel like a really long fight, but he does do a respectable amount of damage. You're actually gonna see me utilize quite a lot of sustaining potions because of that incoming damage. And the steel will just help mitigate that in general. I do also want to demonstrate something on that fight too, so I wouldn't want to have the steel regardless. Okay, got that witching. It was just appropriate there because I got the aggro. I definitely could have handled that without the witching, but no big deal. Skatine! Let's see if I can get that demonstration of the last minute chirp. I think I'd have to time it where I get that final kill as the thing's going off. I can do it with a reassemble drill. Okay, Skatine, come over here. Oh, I didn't get it. I would need strength to have it on. That's okay. In this case, this one is going to be a little bit more beefier for that because of the higher floor. This was an intuition. There's two... I can get the chest here. Well, I may get the centaur, but we'll see. There's also two chests here. I would like the free strength and steel, so I'm going to fight through here. Sight's really good. Okay, I'm going to pull the centaur, because again, it is proximity, and I would like to get to that other chest over there. And in this floor, so going back to the question Henry had about navigating through the room and checking the floors and checking the chests, on the 9th floor, I would say there's a little bit more of an importance of doing so. Because if you get a strength steal leading into the boss, that's kind of big, because that means you can at least have free defense and strength onto the boss, which typically you're going to be using it on the higher floors. And then you could have it carrying into the next set by if you wanted to open with it, or it is overcapped, so on and so forth. So on this floor in particular, I will spend time to actually work towards the chests. Now, of course, if my time is like, you know, not that great, I'm not going to do that. But in this instance, because my time is still really good, that's what I'm going to do. Got a rage back, that's really good. Get a secondary rage, I guess I'll just pop it here. Can Machinist outrun Chirp with 3 sprint? I know Dancer can, says Velvet, with a dash, but I don't know if it's sprint is enough. Interesting. I haven't tried, only because the caves are kind of jerks. I'd have to say probably, but you'd have to have a running start. And I think you'll only use it if it's in a certain range. So that also affects it too. I could be wrong though. I won't have an example here, unfortunately. Well, it's also one of those things where it's like, because it dies so fast, I think I'd just rather kill it, which is one reason why I didn't really even try to go for it, right? But no, it's a fair question. I mean, it's a completely fair question. So. Alright, the 130 boss. Identical to the 30 boss, the mechanics are basically the same as what you're encountering here. The only difference is that its sphere itself, which it does in the middle, is going to be a lot faster than, it's going to be a lot faster than it was before. So you want to make sure that after the 4th puddle, after Fire, Ice, the second one, you get to the middle as soon as you can. Also make sure that you leave a path to get to the middle. Ideally, you don't want to park these puddles in the middle, but as a machinist, you're probably not doing that because you're just running around the arena anyway. Let's go with the fight. I will open with the Lust here. Again, I said this fight is kind of long. This is actually my least favorite fight in all of Deep Dungeon, just because it's just a lot longer than it used to be before Endwalker. Then you'll see me toss out some heals with the Sustaining Potion as well, because of the enormous amount of damage that it'll do. A lot of double attacks, so on and so forth. Here you can just keep away from it pretty easily. Again, you just want to watch out for your walking, because as you circle around the arena, if you park them on the edges, the puddles, you'll have to kind of navigate through. This is going to be the 4th puddle down on the ground, the 2nd ice puddle, so we're going to make our way to the middle here. And you'll see how fast this AoE is. There's still a lot of time, but if you get caught, like, at the edge of the arena by the time it's using Fear itself, you're probably not making it. Now next rotation, after the 4 puddles, I will intentionally take the fear itself so you guys can see what it does. Basically, it'll just give you a hysteria, which makes you just run in random directions, which is not particularly good because you could run into puddles, and that's why it's kind of bad. But it is definitely survivable and manageable, if for some reason you kind of blip. Now, the only reason why it's going to be manageable as well is because I'm prepping for it, so I'm going to have Tactician up, I'm going to have my Sustaining Potion up, to kind of mitigate any incoming damage here. But you'll see it'll give me a Hysteria. Light damage on the AoE. Actually, moderate damage on the AoE. 10-second Hysteria here. I cannot control my character for that time period. Actually leads you into the first puddle, so that's what it does. Definitely can be risky if you're running without steal. And if for some reason you didn't get your Sustaining Potion off when it happened, because that's going to be, you know, a lot. So, best to always just run to the middle for this. And we just kind of keep the running around. Middle is a little bit messy because of that, but that's okay. We can be actually right at the edge of the ring here. So you can be right at the edge of the ring to avoid the AoE. Which is very nice. You don't have to be dead center. Also worth noting is that the snapshot of this is a little wonky. So, like, the animation's really long, but it snapshots a lot earlier than the actual animation. You do want to get in there with safety. But, you know, overall, this fight's not overly difficult, not compared to the fights that you're going to have to deal with later. You continue to do damage. We're going to run to the middle because that is the second ice puddle here. Out we go. And as you can see, like, the cast bar finished. I'm already starting to run out of it, and it didn't really finish the cast yet. That's just because the animation is really there. So if anything, you want to make sure that you are in the safe spot by the time the cast's finished, the cast bar finished, not rely on the animation, because the animation is very much delayed. I'm gonna try to kill it without having to do my potion here so we can help it. We are running with lowered potions, so I'm trying to mitigate my potion usage here. Alright, that is 130. You know what's funny is I forgot that my arm and armor isn't capped, and I just remembered now, but that's okay. The arm and armor is still kind of okay, so that's 130. Entering into 131, guys, you are no longer going to see the piss color crystals here. We're going to go into white color crystals moving in. I would say the difficulty does rise up a tiny bit here. There are some enemies that you definitely want to be concerned about in terms of pulling, but overall, this is going to be a pretty decent floor, even a good warm-up floor. I'm going to remember to hit silver chests because I forgot about them, because I was kind of in like that normal groove, if you will, because I still got to cap my arm and armor. But let's proceed into the next set coming in here. 131 coming at you. Alright, on my first pull, I will pop the strength. I've been kind of averaging a strength every time we open a floor set here, and even though I'm going to be at 2, I'll still do it as an opener. We should get it recapped again. Gormon are proximity, and they are patrols. They're just gonna do a double hit here, beat down, so something just to be worried about and just keep the kiting. Also worth noting that we just started with a donut room, which in a spawn room, a donut room is glorious because it is a perfect room to kite in, because enemies will have a little bit of a problem tracking through to try to chase you down. Heck dies here, although the name may suggest it is side aggro. It is not side aggro. Historically speaking, it has always been sound aggro. Don't ask me why, that's how it is. It has 10 eyes, can't see you, even though we stand right in front of it. It doesn't aggro, but it is sound, so if I take walk away, it'll aggro. Heck dies do a point-blank paralyze. Really small AoE here. Really easy to get away with, which is Hex Eye. So one of your easier pulls to pull here. Definitely a good pick. Although you do want to probably get the Gormons out of the way because, again, they are proximity patrol, and there's not much you can do when they're kind of in your way. Aramon are going to be the one that you may want to give a little bit of attention to. They are sights. This one has an eye and it is sight, but the thing that's important with these guys is that it does do a L5 Petrify, So it is a conal, not a gaze. So you want to be away from it, behind it, and away from it to avoid that gaze. Don't turn around. I've actually made that mistake before where I'm like, oh, it's just, you know, it's just its usual gaze attack and I'll just turn around. Nope, it is a pure conal. Deep Palace Soul coming up is sound as well. Very similar to the Hecdies where it just does a point-blank AoE here. Short point-blank. Really good fight to, really good enemy to fight. Also worth noting, it is Ashkin, as is the Gormon. And what that means is that if you were to use a resolution for whatever reason, you can do bonus damage on the Gormon, which is Ashkin or Undead, and you will do bonus damage to the Deep Palace Soul, which is also Undead. So something to note. Not something you probably will encounter on your run, unless you happen to be capped on resolution and you pick another one up, which actually, funny enough, I just did. So you get the bonus damage on them, but you don't get bonus damage on the other enemies, so it could get a little bit of a logistical issue because, you know, I mean, trying to hit both of... You don't want to hit the Hecdies, but you want to hit the Souls, so on and so forth. Of course, he has poor vision. Why do you think he has so many eyes in the first place? None of them work. You think one of them would work, right? I already walked this path, so that's why my kiting here is going to be nice and clean. I need an example, another example of an Aramon. Something that I'm going to mention now, but we'll try to pull another one later, is that the Aramon is something that you may want to fight up front. Kind of counter to a Machinist kiting. It is going to be one of the few enemies that you will not want to actually kite around. The reason for this is because when it casts L5 Petrify, it's stuck in a long cast, which means it's not doing damage, but it will do it in melee range. So if you're staying away from the Aramon, which, by the way, it's only casting stone, it doesn't do a melee attack, it will never get to L5, and it'll just continually hit you with stone. So you want it to get to L5, and it'll be a little bit less damage that way. And that's important because Aramon later in the run, you're going to do that strat, and if you don't do that, you're going to definitely die, as opposed to actually survive because you're staying in point blank. Ogre here is Sight. It does a very large AoE, very similar to its previous version. One of your better pulls here. So you do have a lot of options. Again, the most threatening here are basically the two patrols, which was the Gormon and the Aramon. The other enemies are very nice to deal with. Excellent. And we got that strength back, by the way. Opening with Peloton. Aramon here. Okay, we can do that example that I'll show here. We'll use this room for the example. Fortune first, though. So I'm going to pull the Aramon here, and we're not going to stop moving. We're going to kite it forever. And you'll see, it will basically, this entire fight, you'll never see it do L5, because it'll never get close enough, because it always has to stop and go. So this stone, you know, as it keeps doing it, it's going to do a little bit to you, you know? Like, even if it does it non-stop. So it does benefit you to actually stay right in front of it, which doesn't really change the damage that it's going to output, and let it do the L5. Oh, well, I thought I was going to get through, but that's perfectly fine. We walked our path, so no problem. I'll let this do the thingy. I'll grab the affluence here, or you're going to be a little delayed, alright? Usually they get it on the right timer, but... So because I walked this path already, I'm a-okay walking through here. Gormon incoming, so that'll be my next pull. I'll probably do a Tactician here to avoid its big damage coming up. Again, we're kind of being a little, you know, we're still kind of mitigating our usage of our Sustaining Potion because I have only 104 here. What's up next? Another Hecdies. I probably will fight this, we'll see. I'll just check the chest first, because I wouldn't want to pull this and then continue through the room, especially if I hit a trap, so we're going to bypass it first, and then I can pull it, but we'll go to the next room. Another straight away here. Again, I'll travel to the opposite side of the room first, and then do a pull, just in case I trigger a trap. Pull down. So now the hallway is safe. I do want to get that bronze chest because, again, we are looking for Potsherds to feed us for this run. Ooh. Okay, good. I'm gonna get this first. Potion, it's fine. I will pull this with me. No, I'll pull this one with me. Because I walked through this path, I believe. Well, I don't remember. So let's just kill it first and then go through. I literally forgot which side I walked through. Which, by the way, can happen to you. Totally a thing. You're thinking about other things. So in this case, I'll play it safe, kill this first, and then travel through the opposite side. So again, if I hit a trap here, it's fine. It's whatever. You know, at least I don't have an enemy on me wailing away at me while I'm trying to deal with that trap. So far, so good with this. Nothing too crazy on this floor. Like I said, this is still a really good warm-up floor. You know, if you're looking to do your runs in bulk like I do, starting at 131 is not a terrible idea either. I think starting 141 can be a little interesting. You know, I'm not gonna sway you away from that. But again, that's where things really start to ramp up. But 131 is not a bad starting floor. Auto heal disable, which means I'm probably gonna have to use some potions here to manage my healing, which is a little unfortunate, but that's fine. Gormand, I'm gonna open with a sprint here, and we're gonna pull to kind of keep the damage, to kind of keep the enemy away from me as I do this, and hopefully get a lot of damage off. I'm gonna do a leg graze there to give it a little bit of weight so that it will move slower to me. Kill. Kind of that's where you're gonna start to see Machinist's specialty. It isn't just the running away from the enemy, it's also its crowd control that it has in possession of it. The opening sprint on top of leg graze, which is going to be so useful on the higher floors. First instance of the mummy, it is proximity, no different than any mummy that you faced before. You can argue that its AoE is a little bit faster when it goes off, so you want to make sure that you mind it. If you're running away from it, you're really not going to be worried about that AoE at all. But you don't want to get caught flat-footed against this one. That AoE will stun you for 5 seconds and do moderate damage. And then if you aggro something on top of it, yeah, you're asking for problems, that's for sure. Gonna heavy this enemy as well, once again. Gonna take the hit here because he'll catch up with me in speed. Whoop. Okay. Mummy, Heck Dies, we fought those already. Check the chest first. And a Mimic, lovely. I'm gonna open Sprint here. Try to keep away from it as best as I can. Infatuation's going off. Gonna get close to it to kind of force out the, that death trap. Sometimes when you kite around a Mimic like I am, and it's supposed to do death trap, it doesn't actually quite get there, and it needs to get close enough, and it does actually benefit you better just to run into it and let it do it, because sometimes it'll still get those melee hits off of you, while still not even hitting the death trap. Just depends how your kiting is going. Okay, this is not... Okay, let me see if I can get this clean here. Sight. I'll use it, especially if I'm going to hit a trap, potentially. I do want to get to that silver chest. Well... Yeah, okay, I'll get to the silver chest. I was checking my HP here, because we do have auto-heal disable, but I will be able to heal that back. And we're looking for silver chests here, because I'm trying to cap out my arm and armor, which is very close to capping out. Nice. We would be a little bit higher if I didn't forget to actually check the silver chest on this run, but that's okay. At least I remember now. Into the next floor. Alright, 4-way room, but it is a donut room, so this is actually the perfect hiding room. Really good room to have to do our damage. Safety on top of that, which is great. We have a new enemy over there, the Deep Palace Guard, which we'll definitely get to. Gonna put a heavy on the Gormand. I gotta watch that Gormand, because again, it is proximity, so it could get in my way. Oh, it did actually go this way, so I'm gonna double back here, but that's fine. No big deal. I'm gonna go to this room, check the chest, and then get out of here. Fortune, we'll use that. Gonna pull that Gormand that was going here. Actually, it's going in my direction, so that is convenient. Mummy, we'll get the guard. That guard is going to be Sight. I'll just repeat that again once we actually pull it. And nothing too different than the one you fought earlier as well. It's just the higher level version of it, that's all. Putting the heavy on as my strength goes off. We'll definitely discuss a little bit more of the Machinist kiting on when things get a little bit harder. But for now, that's all you have to do with this. Is actually a treasure room. You can see the treasure room because of the amount of enemies in here, as well as the 4 chests in the room. I'm gonna see if I can sneak a couple chests here. That raising, very good. Makes it comfy. Never going to complain about a raising, that's for sure. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna work this treasure room to see if I can sneak a couple other chests in here. We had a respawn, but that's okay because we have a donut room. So we're just gonna run them around and kind of mitigate the damage here. Take note that I'm not gonna use a sustaining potion here. We're just gonna rely on the kiting. And Machinist specialty, this is the best of Machinist that you're seeing right now. And if you're up into this part of the video, you're checking it now, and you're kind of still like in between Machinist Warrior, figuring out which one you may want to go, or any other job, you know, that might be out there, Reaper, Sage, Picta, whatever it might be. This is what you're gonna do a lot of running around and a lot of kiting. So if you like that gameplay, there you go. If not, that's okay. You have options. No big deal. Guard here. We'll do AoE and some double attacks as such. That Void Slash. AoE is on me if he gets it off. If I do remember correctly. Or he doesn't do it. It's fine too. But this is actually an enemy that is not going to hit you as hard as, say, like a knight, which you'll see later. They're not too bad at all, and you can get away from them because they are side aggro. So I'm going to see if I can grab that chest on the left, although that guard is going to aggro. Now, the exit is open. I might try to sneak this right side because they're all looking away from it. Oh, not too bad. I'll avoid the alteration here. Which one do I feel is better since Archie? Machinist or Reaper? Machinist. And the only reason I would say Machinist, kind of without really a hesitation there, is because melee does have its difficulties. Melee Godfather is very tough. And not to mention you have to handle Pox. So Pox is always going to be a thing that you need to manage, which can get very threatening for Reaper. Whereas Machinist, you don't have to deal with Pox for the most part because you can interrupt it. And, you know, in the perspective of the first-time runner, that can be very intimidating. Now, with that being said, you know, I don't want to completely talk down Reaper at all. Reaper is a fantastic job. I would say Reaper probably brings more damage overall than Machinist will, even with some extra kiting that you may have to do on the job to stay alive. It has a very good defensive with its 30-second shield. It has very good movement and kiting with its egress, so it definitely has a lot of things going for it. But Machinist here, it's consistent damage and it's consistent mitigation with the constant running away, and the interrupt, which is definitely a very big appeal for the job in my opinion. Okay, a mummy is undead, by the way, so you're going to see an example of us using a resolution here to take out the mummy. We were talking about how the souls and the Gormand are in that category. This will take 2 hits to die here, but that's an example of that extra bit. And there's another mummy that spawns here. I'm going to kind of clip the mummy here, but looks like I have to kill the guard potentially. Oop, I'm going to try to do that again. Okay, here we go. I'm going to hit the guard on purpose here, because the guard is looking at the chest, and you can see the difference of damage there with someone that is undead and someone that isn't undead. And that's why it can get a little tricky trying to utilize a resolution if it wasn't an extra one, because if you just hit the enemy that isn't undead, you know, then you have a little bit of an issue on hand if you didn't mean to do it. Opening this Fortune, and now opening this Resolution. Also worth noting, I'll mention it now since we're on the topic, we are using a resolution on the boss, so you don't want to empty out your resolutions. You do want to make sure that you have one resolution in your inventory. And hopefully by this point you haven't used it unless you had some exceptionally bad RNG that for some reason you don't have any resolution. But let's just hope by now you've gotten a resolution, you've been checking chests, so on and so forth. And I would say 99% of the times from people that I've been talking with, seeing going the climb, they have at least one resolution for this coming boss, which you would want to have. Okay, Donut Room. I'm gonna navigate the donut room first before we do any pulls here, just in case things get a little spicy. Alternatively, I could do a safety, but we're fine on this floor, it'll be okay. Opening Rage, so I'm gonna take advantage of this Rage. We're gonna sight here, and we're going to Fortune for the Rage. That's a luring trap. Okay, I think I could sneak the silver chest before I do the Rage. Let's pop the Fortune here. Fortune Rage to kind of get some chests here. Because this ogre is looking at the chest, I do want to be careful of the fact that I could hit an exploding trap. Which it did. And I had the heal ready to hit there, so that I would not have tragedy if that were to happen. Checking this chest real fast. Okay, gonna heal here. Actually, the luring trap is here. So I'm gonna Rage now. We're gonna be utilizing the luring traps for extra kills, especially with the Fortune coming along. Now, this is something you'll see score runners do, but if you're kind of hunting chests down, maybe you're a little bit low on Pomanders, this is not a terrible idea. One risk you'll run into here of hitting the luring trap in the donut room is that they could spawn anywhere in the donut room, so there might be a possibility that you have to wait for them for like 3 seconds to get to you. Like in this case, this thing has to walk all the way around just to get to me. That's something to note and to calculate if you decide to hit that luring trap. And also something worth noting, if you accidentally hit a trap, luring trap in a donut room unintentionally, that's something you may have to deal with, that they spawn across the map. You want to be careful, especially if your first instinct is a witching, because you want to make sure that they get close enough for that witching. I was actually, you know, it's funny, I was thinking about that too. Have I ever demonstrated the 140 boss with that resolution? It was crossing my mind as I was discussing the idea that, you know, if you didn't have the thing, but I may do that as a post thing. I may not do that on this run, and I may have like another run where we end up doing it. And I'll just kind of fit it into the video if so. But the fight in itself is not is pretty. I mean, you could still. It's not like it's impossible without it. Just you have to respect the ads. But I think statistically, like I said, you should have a resolution, hopefully, unless you really mismanage your bombs. And especially because we used 3 on 100, we still got a lot back. We're still at cap. So, but I may insert that in the future to demonstrate it. Although, I could also demonstrate it today. Yeah, I could. Gotta kill the mummy because it just spawned. Lots came back sick. And that's the rage I had earlier. Let's go back to check the other chests that I didn't open yet. I think there was one in this room that I got. And some mimic. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, off to the next floor. Palms are still good. We are going into the 6th floor. Where's the chest? Okay. Sometimes I get a little lost with the chest. Alright, Dahak. First instance of the Dahak. I don't like fighting these. These guys are side aggro, but the reason I don't like fighting these is because they put a 30-second disease on you, which is also does have diminishing return. And it's just, it lowers your movement speed. It does lower your regular healing as well. They're not particularly difficult, though, to kill. It's just the movement speed is kind of just, you know, annoying to deal with. But, again, in the instance like it's the Beist earlier, it might be a good consideration to fight them back to back, so you can get the kind of get the diminishing return on that disease. So we may fight a second one after this. Flight's gonna be good. Okay, Coblyn. You'll see the disease should be at half duration here when it gets it all. 15 seconds right there. There you go. Also, moderate damage here. I'm kind of avoiding that second wind only because it'll probably be at reduced healing, since disease is reduced healing. I can pull another one if I see it. I'm gonna check first before I end up pulling the monk. Okay, we got a whole slew of enemies to pick from. Oh, well that's nice. Okay, I'll just pull another one right now. Ask and you shall receive. So now it's 7 seconds. You can see it keeps getting lower and lower as long as I'm within that 1 minute window of receiving it. Monks here are going to be very similar to the previous iteration 100 floors ago. They will do Sucker, which is the pull-in. You can prevent this with knockback resistance. So we'll do the arm's length here. I gotta be careful. I'm in the middle of the room here. But basically the same type of moves that it has here. Troubadour is another example here that we had earlier. One of the better pulls because it just does dark. So you can just kind of run behind it each time and avoid that damage. You can stay up close and just move. Really, really fun enemy to fight so that you don't actually take damage. Too bad it doesn't show up later on the floor. Gonna pull that mummy just so I can get access to that chest. Okay, pulling the mummy. There's a patrol that is floating behind me somewhere, so I will take a note of that. And it's worth noting patrols as you go along. We're definitely gonna do a lot of that on the higher floors, but I'm kind of keeping in the back of my head that there is one so you don't get kind of snuck up on. Steel is great. We'll use that steel. Affluence. Okay, take it. There's the patrol coming back over there. Okay, that's fine. I'll pull the patrol regardless if I open the exit here just for demonstration. So here again, we're playing it a little safe. I'm trying to make sure that the room is kind of clear before I decide to navigate to the next room. Fighting in the hallway to avoid any issues. This is sight. This patrol is sight with its one eye. It will do a gaze attack, which I believe will cause you minify, and then follow up with a secondary attack that is kind of a wombo combo because of the reduced movement speed. You will just get out in time if you are minified, but you just want to respect that. You can get behind that gaze if you want to, as opposed to kind of just running, keeping your back to it. These are not a bad pull at all. Pretty good to fight. Next floor. Mimic. And Aramon. The Aramon have returned as a patrol here. You just want to note that one. Because again, they of course bring back the ones that are the most annoying back. With the Petrify and the casting. See, I don't know which way it's going to come from. I may skip it for now, check the room, and then come back and pull it. But I gotta see which way it's coming from. It's coming from that angle, so I'm gonna go this way instead. Kind of see at the corner over there. Mimic did drop a chest because I could see it on my map. Checking this room. Okay, Troubadour is proximity if I failed to mention. Serenity, don't need it. Alright, let's hunt down that Aramon, and then check whatever else we got here. I believe we fought everything from what I can remember, but we'll see. If we haven't fought something, we will definitely pull it. Again, you want to stay close to this thing so you give it a chance to do L5. And you're going to get behind L5, because the thing is not a gaze, but it is just a pure tonal. You can kind of see the range of that by the animation on the ground of how far or how wide that thing is. This was flighted, so that's why we're adding 2 kills. I'm gonna check that chest in a bit, but I'm actually gonna come back later. I'm gonna pull this troubadour instead because it is a little bit closer to the exit here. And that waiting worked out, so I can get the chest pretty clean here. Alteration I'll leave alone. Checking that chest over there on the left as we move along. I'm actually not overly worried with the troubadour, even if I were to hit a trap here, because I can avoid taking damage from this thing. There's a Lucian, which we won't use here. I'll check the other rooms as well. One reason I'm actually going to check a little bit of the rooms here, even though I kind of set that rule, if the exit's open, you're wasting your time kind of thing. I am running an Affluence here, so I could potentially get some chests, which it is possible here. That guard probably will aggro, which it just did. Gonna kite it around and get that silver chest, because we are still trying to get a little bit of Armor armor. Checking the chest here. Hold for a second. 597. We're getting there. I'll pull the monk, it's fine. Now I'm gonna let the monk do its pull-in here on purpose so you can see, because we did do arm's length last time. So even if I run away from this really far, it'll pull me back in. And then followed by that point blank. Little noteworthy, although it doesn't matter in Palace of the Dead, it will matter in something like Eureka Orthos. It is actually superior to take the pull-in at a shorter distance than a longer distance. Because if you actually take the pull-in from a longer distance, you will travel longer, and it'll take you a longer amount of time to get away from the AoE, which is detrimental in Eureka Orthos, that if you actually take too long with the animation, you would get clipped. But Palace of the Dead, not have to worry about that. You just don't want to get pulled into a trap or something. That's the only thing you want to avoid. It does interest me how, like, certain little details are more important depending on what kind of content you're doing. No items, but we have a steel still running. So unfortunate. I was planning to use an affluence on the next floor, but it's okay. I'm gonna avoid the Dahak, because again, I don't like pulling them. So I'll try to work around the Dahak. Right now, it's kind of not really blocking me from a room. I can get to all the rooms at the moment. Fighting along the hallway before we proceed. Again, a common theme you'll see me do on the cave floors, but not when we start getting to 151 plus. I am going to play these cave floors fairly safe due to that issue. Here, because I've already walked along this side, I'm going to replicate that movement so I can bring it back to spawn here. It's like I've already carved a free spot, if you will. Gonna do the arms length to prevent the knockback, or the pull-in rather. There's a patrol floating around. I just saw it. I believe that should be an Aramon. Looks like it is. Okay. A Taurus is our first instance here. No different than the ones you fought before. We'll pull it. It'll do a double attack. Tri-clip. Actually, well, I guess you could call it a triple attack. I don't believe this version has any AoEs or whatever, so it'll just basically do that double attack. When you get behind the Dahak here, kind of also demonstrating it is side aggro. Mimic. Gonna check this chest as we're going through. Looking for Potsherds, because we need them. We did get one on this floor, that's really good. I will check that chest as well. Looks like I'm going this way. I already walked this path, so I should be clear from a trap unless I don't replicate my step. And the Airmon's coming, so that's great. I'm gonna go back. Okay, checking chest here. I'm gonna go around this way. To get a Potsherd, that's very good. I'm gonna check this chest and then check the other rooms. Oh yeah, I did check this chest. This was alteration. The Hawk is in the wall. Fantastic. I'm gonna check this one on the left over here. What we got? Okay, again, this is sight. I don't think I said that, but that is sight aggro. Walk right behind it, no problem. The Hawk actually moved in a good spot here. I can get behind it to check the room, although there is a risk I'm running into traps here. We are good. We are going to pull these because I would like that silver chest. My orange link is probably not going to come in play here, so I'm just going to make sure that I'm in a good spot and I take the draw in, that I won't run into any issues here. So the next monk here, my steel has dropped. I will have arm's length on this one though, so I can utilize it. As you can see, the damage without the steel is starting to catch up, especially when we don't have items on, and we're not kiting. I'm gonna wait for my HP to be a little bit more respectable before I hit the silver chest. We need to be above 70, but I also don't want to hit a trap in the process. Hold, hit. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting back to cap very soon. I will skip the Dahak and pull the Aramon instead. Again, I don't want to deal with the Dahak, especially with that disease coming in. And that thing shot me through a wall. That's why I don't trust the cave walls in particular, because they're not that great for line of sighting, but you're not really meant to line of sight here. Getting behind for the L5. Holding on to my second win until I drop maybe below 50% on this full. Which it might be soon. I'm gonna pop it here. Okay. Ah. Holding. Waiting for my HP. I gotta be above 70. That's exactly 70. Holding. 94. Very good. Into the 9th floor. Okay. Let's see what we got. Donut room. I want to clear up the room. Yes. Actually, it's a little nasty because both of the proximity enemies are kind of in my way to check both rooms. So we have to pull both of them so that I can see, I can get through. Gonna get pulled in here? Gonna do the Sly cast, if you will, to avoid the attacks from this thing. Moving. A really good pull to have directly after the monk, which was hitting me pretty decently. Okay. Now we're kind of okay in this room in case we hit a trap. Lust. I will try to check all the chests here simply because we are walking to the boss floor here. Okay. I might get the monk here. Yep, okay. It felt like I was going to get it. That's okay. I was predicting it, so we kind of ran back. Any patrols coming? It doesn't seem like it. Pulling coming in here. Looks like I have a clearance to that chest. I think I would be good on the right side because I would get that angle, but in this case I'm gonna go along the left side. Waiting to kill it first. Okay. I'm gonna go along the left side here, the long way to get it. If I aggro this thing, it's perfectly fine. It's not a bad thing to fight at all. Which I do, and we get the steal. Might hit a trap. We're good. I'm gonna get that steal. So here's a bit of a 9th floor strategy. Unlike every other floor before here, if I saw that buff, I would take it with a few exceptions. Now, because we're still trying to get to the exit, what I would like to do is I want to clear the exit. I want to make sure that I can walk straight to the exit first, and then pop that steal. Because otherwise, I'm going to waste some steel that I could be using for the boss. I'm going to pull this monk because it's blocking me, plus it's blocking a chest. Now, you do have a little bit of an interesting situation here, though. So, although what I said is valid, that you want to make sure that, like, maybe you want to have a clearance to the exit before you open the thing. Now, in this case, it's looking like the steal is actually going to be in the opposite end of the exit. So just imagine the scenario, right? We clear up the exit, we got to the exit, look, it looks all clear. Now I gotta run all the way back to pick it up just to go to the exit. So for this instance, what I would like to do is I want to pop that steal so I don't have to come back here. And yeah, maybe I do have to fight things along the way, but it means I don't have to walk back here, right? Because that's a lot of movement. If the exit, if the Pomander is pretty near to the exit, totally leave it in the chest, pick it up later, and then go in. But in this case, because it seemingly looks like it's on the opposite end of this map, I'm gonna take it now. regardless if I have to kill more things. Gonna bring in the in-game, by the way. 3 Troubadours. We had a respawn here, but it looks like you can maybe sneak around the right side, unless this thing gets a little close. That it will aggro 100%. No problem as I try to see what's up in this room. That is the exit. But is that it? Okay. So I'm gonna probably pull that Troubadour because it is in my way, although the Monk is looking to be annoying as well. Really annoying. So what I may try to do here is I'm gonna pull the Troubadour, and then I'm gonna wait to see if that Monk will actually get away from us, and then I can just like sneak in here. Pull this Troubadour. Alright, let's go kill it. And then we'll wait for the Monk, if not I'll fight the Monk, no problem, and then I'll check the chest after that. Alright, I'll pull the Monk, because no way, even if I go left or right, I'm gonna have to deal with this Monk note regardless. Okay. Now, good thing you brought it up though, Jason. We will do this boss, I guess, normally. And since I have this raising, I do have the luxury of demonstrating this. So how this will actually go is we will do this normally. I will take an intentional death before I actually kill it to then do the boss kind of how we normally do it. So we'll demonstrate both of them in here. It has been a long time. I don't even remember the last time I did this boss, like, for real. But we do have the raising, so we'll take advantage of it, and this is for the sake of demonstration. So this fight normally is going to be a little annoying. It's going to be just like the 40 boss earlier, 100 floors ago. It'll drop 4 AoE puddles, followed by 2 adds. It'll do 2 line AoEs and circle AoEs, and then it'll go into its enrage. Now, with the enrage, you have to drop the adds, otherwise the adds will also have an enrage. Actually, the boss is not enraging, it'll do an AoE terror. The adds will have an enrage if they are still alive by the time this boss does its terror, which we will actually demonstrate. That's how I will intentionally die on this fight. Let's do this. It'll cost me a couple of Potsherds, but it's perfectly fine for the sake of demonstration. So this, the only reason you'd be doing this is if you get into this catastrophic situation that you don't have any Potsherds. I'm sorry, not Potsherds. If you don't have any resolution. And look, I mean, I guess it's fair, even if there's a 1% chance that you don't have any resolutions or you just have to mismanage them, I think it's still going to be worth noting what this fight looks like when you do it normally. This is the 4th AoE, the adds are coming out here. Probably going to start using potions on this. Respect on the adds here. They're going to drop pretty good because I am a DPS here. Gonna drill this one. Now, I would want to pop a potion when the boss decides to do its center ability here. I don't have to quite use it now. It's gonna use it on the next part here, though. So I'm gonna pop a potion right now. It'll do a moderate amount of damage for that circle AoE. It's gonna hit me twice. It's gonna hit me for the terror first, which is this one. And then it's going to hit me with another ability here. Shadow Flare. While I'm in terror. And then we repeat the fight. So the first rotation did about 20% here. And this is rinse and repeat. This is the fight that you see here. It's really not too bad if you have to do it normally. It's nothing to necessarily be scared about. It just will take, you know, about as long as like any other fight, just like the previous fight. I mean, one can argue that this probably is even... This actually will probably feel even shorter than the previous fight that we just did on the Hydra. Adds are out. Kill the adds ASAP. You do not want to have them go alive. That is the first AoE. This is the second AoE. Alright, 50% down in this fight. Popping a potion here. Should be enough to keep me up when it does the circle. So we're averaging about 25% per cycle here. Nice little drink break I'll get. Alright, bursts. Two AoEs on the ground, looking for 4. Once 4 goes out, the ads will show up. I'll show it. I'll show you what the point of the Prey debuff is. You'll see it. We will demonstrate that. It is meant for the ads more than the boss itself. It's a very good question. Why is there a Prey debuff? And the boss will do the same thing on the lower floors as well. Except you could theoretically live the Enrage on the lower floor, but this one you cannot. You definitely cannot. Not even a tank lives through it. It ain't my first rodeo. We'll die in the safe spot, no worries. Alright, so I will intentionally die here so you guys can see what happens when you don't kill these ads. I think it's worthy of noting what it does and why it's important. And to Kane your question, what the heck's the Prey for? And we'll show it to you. Okay, holding damage. Oh, this puddle, by the way? I'm almost certain I would demonstrate it, but I had tried to take I had tried to stand in that puddle as a warrior, and this thing nearly one-shot me, the actual puddle. So if you get hit with the AoE when it actually uses the AoE, it doesn't do that much damage. But if you actually stay in the puddle, it's going to do an enormous amount of damage. It probably one-shots you as a DPS, so worth noting there that you do not want to stand in that. Okay, so we're going to be safely here. So you're going to see the Prey mechanic go off, and you'll see the followers go into Enrage. I believe they cast Tornado is what they're going to cast, and the amount of damage it's going to do. I do have Raising on. There's the Prey. Tornado going out. 99,999. I am unsure if it goes to Invulnerability too, but that's what it does. That's why the Prey is there, because it's like a trigger. It's actually the same thing with, I believe it's the same idea with the 120 boss. With the 120 boss, I believe also does Prey, and after it does its thing, that's when you see Final Sting go off with the bees. So it's a little bit of a similar mechanic there. I guess because they're ghosts and they cast magic, they have Tornado, which is an interesting pick, of course. You could survive that as a 100 warrior. Oh, true, because you have, what, like, 100,000 HP? You know what? That's fair, you probably could. You just can't get here with a 100 warrior. Okay, now, as we're chilling here for my weakness to go off, I am going to Strength only. No, we're Steel. No, we'll play it safe. I'm going to Strength and Steel because I'll demonstrate this. We have a strategy that I like to call in terms of numbers. What I do is 3-2-3-2-3. What that basically means is we're going to be using Resolution, and that's the amount of hits we're going to do in a pattern. You're going to open with 3 hits, followed by 2 hits to kind of offset its AoEs, followed by 3 hits after that. And you can get it just in time. You'll see kind of how tight it is when you do a 3-2-3-2-3 combination. But what's interesting with this is I've seen lots of people actually have issues trying to get it that tight. I mean, even, okay, I'll say ping issue could be a thing, but I have also done this on like the Oceanic server and have had no problem. With that being said, we're not going to take anything for granted. So what you're going to see with this strategy is we'll open with 3 hits, we'll then do 2 hits, then we'll do 3 hits, but thereafter I'm going to do 2 hits after that. And basically, If you were to do like the perfect rotation, the perfect uptime, you can completely ignore the ads and kill the boss, no problem. Because the ads will just hit you a couple times and the boss is dead. In this instance, if you do it with less hits, then you'll have to deal with the ads, because if you actually only get 2 hits every single time, then you may have too much of the boss HP and you might actually dump out a resolution before you're actually done. And you will one-shot the ads with resolution. So if you're not getting that 3-2-3-2 combination perfectly, just basically mine the ads and then finish off the boss later. You are a DPS after all, so you'll be able to kill it no problem. You can have a reassembled drill ready, so on and so forth, so it is no problem. But you'll see how quick this boss will go with the difference of it being resolution. I'm going to pop a Tactician, I'm going to pop this, and then we go with the resolution. So 3 hits on the first rotation, the first pull here. Gonna kind of mark it and kind of predict that if it's movement coming in. Number 3 here. Now we're gonna do 2, because we want to do 2 here, because trying to squeeze out 3 is gonna be very, very tight already. We're gonna wait for the AoE to go off, boom. We do 3 here. The moment I get out of that AoE, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. We can get out right at the last bit here, no problem. And now we do 2. Now here, if you're not maintaining that perfect rotation, it's perfectly fine. Once the ads show up on this second bit over here, we will kill the ads coming out on this next rotation. Just one-shot them, no problem. Ads are out. We kill this ad over here. That's gonna get one shot. We kill this ad over here. That's gonna get one shot, and then we just come back to the boss. If I were to drop resolution here and I don't kill the boss, which actually, I'll just show you. I'll dump out here. I'll just finish him off with the rest of my GCDs, no problem. And as we already saw in the previous, on the bit of this fight, the first part, the AoE is not that big of a deal. I mean, yeah, you're taking damage, but it's not gonna kill you unless the ads are open. So that's kind of your 2 versions, but I mean, in my opinion, the resolution is definitely going to be way faster and kind of our preferred strategy of handling that boss, but that's both versions right there, which is the benefit of that reason. That's 140.